Hey, what's going on? Keith here from Sports Vibes TV, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Stephen Fox. Foxy, how's everything with you?
All is well. Shout out to you. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the SV Nation. I hope everyone's well. How are you?
I'm doing as good as I can be during this three-game losing streak. The last game I think was the toughest, especially watching how Julius was acting. But for the most part, I'm hoping that tonight we'll be able to come back refreshed with a little bit more energy and get a W over the Lakers. How about you? How you feeling?
Yeah, I love my Knicks, so I hope absolutely that they win. But I was watching like a damn horror movie, like Scream or something, like a monster's coming back. It's like Bad Julius is back. Oh my God, I thought we put that away in a vault and never going to see it again. But he's reared his ugly head, folks. And oh God, we'll talk about it, but it's depressing.
Yeah, I definitely thought he was good past it. Especially with the fact that we brought in Jalen Brunson, and we almost saw a new side of Julius Randle. You heard a lot about him talking with Johnny Bryant, and trying to come back as a better teammate, a better better man, a better human being overall. So to see him, kind of revert to that type of behavior that we kind of were upset with last season was definitely shocking. And like you saw, little rumblings, a little, hints of it still being there under the surface, but we saw it in full display. I mean, I thought he was going to knock Evan Fournier's head off. Then he turned his aggression towards the video guy, and I was like, oh man, this is not good. You can definitely see that it kind of deflated the team during the game. But hopefully, it's a quick turnaround. Maybe he can put that to the back of his mind and come out as a better version of himself today.
Yeah, I hope so. Hey, we've been giving him flowers, talking about his resurrection, that he worked so hard to come back from where he was last year. And nothing's worse than seeing somebody be their own worst enemy. And that outburst on meltdown yesterday, over what? What was so blatantly that you had to go crazy like that? And like you said, it was an inflection point in the game. I think they went on a 9-0 run after that, and it deflated the team. And I was also, we've been giving flowers to Tibbs. And I was hoping that from a lesson perspective and even from a parent perspective, the best thing that you could have done was sit his ass for the rest of the game, let Obi play, and just privately say to him, Julius, I love you. I wish the best for you. But every time you pull that shit, I'm going to bench you. So you tell me, you want to play the right way? Cool. You want to play the wrong way? Get used to the pine, because I'm not going to put up with that shit this time. First time I made a mistake last year, I'm not going to do it again, but he made the mistake again. Tibbs, he's afraid to show the proper love and put him in his place. It's inexcusable.
Well, you got to remember, Tibbs was also a guy that's fighting for his job. What was it, a week or two ago, reports came out that he was under the impression that if he didn't, start turning things around, his job was going to be taken from him. So when you have a coach that has that type of mindset and knows that this is probably going to be his last opportunity to coach a team, they're not willing to take those type of risks, especially when you've already got Jalen Brunson out and, Julius Randle is pretty much the engine of this squad that's going to help us win games, when Brunson is out. So for him to not take out Randle, I mean, you can kind of understand it from his viewpoint where he's trying to win as many games as possible and he knows he needs Julius Randle to overcome ferocious Clippers squad. But still, when you have a guy that's that demonstrative out there on the court and he's sapping the energy from the guys around him, you just got to sit him down, especially when in that first half Obi was solid. I think he was definitely one of the driving forces in helping us stay with against the Clippers. But definitely I think Randle should have sat a little bit more in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, and like you said, all the signs were there. Hey, we talked about on the stream last week that one of the things we love about Jalen is that, nobody plays perfect, man. You're tired, you're doing it, you make some bad passes, and when it happens with Jalen, he claps his hands. It's like, okay, cracks the guy. Okay, we're cool. I knew, like you said, the signs, whether it was early in the game, did you notice that he ripped the ball out of Hart's hand on a rebound?
Yeah.
And Hart shook his head like, what's up with this dude? And then later in the game, at a key moment, we love Josh, but it happens. I'm not going to he threw a bad pass. And his body language to Josh was he turned his back, just walked away like he was upset about it, rather than do what Jalen did, clap up his hands like, nah, you're killing yourself in this game, Josh. The rebounds, the second chance points. If we win this, if we're going to lose this game, it's not because of you. And he pulled that shit all game with different people, and I was like, oh man, this meltdown's coming. I could see this from a mile away.
Yeah, and I think the biggest question is how do we kind of recover from it? You know what I mean? Because you look at the way this team is set up, they look extremely tired. They're out there on the West Coast. Randle, I think, he's physically uh, tired. He's mentally frustrated, and you have a coach in Tibbs who's not really going to sit him. They've already asked him, "Are you going to give Randle a day off?" And he's kind of talked his way around and saying you can give them a day off, from practice and things like that in order to help them, have their legs under them for the game. But I don't see Randall being given an opportunity to kind of recharge because we're still not playing Obi any minutes. He's playing anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes a game. So, he's not going to be able to rest Julius Randle in that way. And it's not like we're going to go up big without Jalen Brunson. I think this team has been competitive without Brunson, but we haven't been world beaters, I don't think, in the point where you can get a big lead and sit, Randall towards the end of a game to try and get him to recharge that way. So I don't think there's too many options right now to get Julius Randle the type of rest he may need to help us mount some sort of push to end the season.
Now it's done. Meaning his body has taken the minutes of the season have taken its toll, and we'll go into a little more detail later, folks. But yeah, so if he's hitting that proverbial wall, then that's what coaches are. And you and I have talked about this, that from a distance, we know that one of the triggers for bad Julius is exhaustion. Yep. When he gets tired, that's when the bad habits, that's when that spin for hell that the first year at the Knicks that we wanted to get rid of him, like, yo, these teams are watching film. Every time you go there, they know the minute you spin, they're going to steal that ball and, the hands go up, I was fouled or whatever. And it's like, oh man, this is deja vu. This is deja vu. And it's like, you made the all-star team, and you just mentioned, the stress. You made an all-star team. You won back fans. You're having like an all NBA season. You're in this league X amount of years. You're going to have it's all, you go through a period. Oh man, we just lost 3 games in a row, or 4 games in a row, and like, let's get it together. But it's the NBA, and yet no. And you just saw it in his eyes. He gets this scared look in his eyes when he's about to go off, like, and if it's, a mental health issue, my heart goes out to him. I don't wish bad on anyone. I only wish well, but you're fucking up all these other guys, man, that are busting their ass to do, achieve a goal. If you can't do it, then, if you're dealing with an issue, then quietly, get the hell out of the way. But if you think you're so important that you can pull that shit on the court and ruin the rhythm of this team, you're going to be, you want resurrection, then we're going to be resurrecting Trey Randall in the offseason, because how do you build a future with, you brought it up last year, what Julius is showing up. He had Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde episodes all last season in the streams, which we don't know which one's going to show up tonight. And now at this exhaustion level, the only thing that's going to help him is an off season. There's not a game or anything. That exhaustion is going to come right back to his legs and his head. So we're in a predicament now, like saying we love Jalen. So even if he has the next several games off or whatever it is and comes back, you're putting too much burden on Jalen for him to be the savior of Julius. That's not why he's here. He's a grown man. He's the one that should be taking care of himself, man.
True. I mean, but there's a lot of pressure when you're an athlete and you have that many eyeballs on you. So I can understand someone, you know, falling or being stressed in that scenario when you got a lot of people that are relying on you to lead them to a victory. Because remember, without Jalen Brunson, those guys are looking at Julius Randle as that leader. And when he doesn't have it going for him and he's not able to help in other ways, because even, defensively, he's been an issue over the last few games. So if he's not able to help out his teammates, I think he starts to, get a little frazzled. And that's when you start to see some of that frustration. Because, yes, it could have been a physical game and the refs weren't calling, some fouls for him. But I think it was like that for both teams. So for Randle to, react the way he did, I think is very troublesome, especially when we're supposed to be relying on that guy if we want to make a deep playoff run. Because regardless of what we're getting from, I think, the other guys on this team. If we don't have Jalen Brunson and Randall playing at an elite level, we really don't have that great of a chance getting past the first round. I don't believe so.
That, and also we had a really great moment yesterday to RJ's show in his fourth year that he was going to come up big. Jalen's out, Julius is off key. Let me step up, and he didn't, man. He didn't for the umpteenth time. So he could have showed leadership and like, yo, we are a core of three. And he's just showing, no, we're a core of two. Or a core of one, Jalen. And when Julius plays great, then it's a core of two. But you're just an average player, an averagely inconsistent player, meaning RJ.
We got a nice deep dive for you guys on RJ. We'll start to talk about him and get into some of his shot profile and what he may need to do if he's going to try and become a better player in the league. So we'll discuss that in a little bit. Just want to jump into the chat, say what's up to everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got 44 in the chat. Only got 16 likes. Do us a solid. Smash that like button. It would be greatly appreciated. JJ said RJ should be moved in the off season for the right deal. I think heading into this season, I was saying that RJ was somebody we should be building around. But with the way he's been performing so far in year 4 after we've paid him, I'd be open to moving him in the right deal. Bring somebody in that kind of fits a little bit better with Brunson and Randle. I'd be open to it. But, I still want to see how RJ can perform for the remaining portion of the season and come playoff time. If he can turn it around and show something, maybe he'll change my mind. But as of right now, you have to be willing to include him in the deal if you feel like it'll bring someone that'll take us to the next level.
Yeah, I was talking to Buzzer Beater, and he asked me some things, and I said that I really feel that RJ is not near his ceiling on offense. I think he'll get better in the next few years. He'll get, more savvy. He'll hopefully get smarter in this offensive game. My biggest issues, I said to Buzzer Beater that I think he's at his ceiling, though, on the defense. And I just don't see him getting better on defense, and he's getting destroyed. I mean, game after game, the last few games, it was like, oh my God, that was really ugly. What the hell? And then all of a sudden you sub him out and you see Josh Hart and you're like, yo, now we're playing this team. Look at how this team's playing. And it jumps off the page like, wow, just take RJ out. If you take RJ out and put IQ in, we play better. If you take RJ out and put Josh Hart in, we play better. We play better without him. So now that we have that, damn luggage, weight on our back of that damn contract, we'll see what we can move him for. But, geez.
I mean, one thing, though, RJ's contract isn't super terrible. I mean, you look at what he's getting paid compared to other guys. That's something we could still be able to move off of if we decided we wanted to do that. And, I mean, he's still young. He's still only, 22? So another team might be willing to invest in him and see if he can reach his full potential. I think RJ can still be a solid player. I just don't know, what's going on. Like why he hasn't developed his game from year 1. Well, there's some development year 1 to year 4, but not nearly enough. We're still seeing a lot of the same things. He's still getting the shot swatted left, right, and center. The 3-point shot is still something that's extremely inconsistent. So, you would have hoped that by now he would have started to learn some of these things and adjust his style of play, but we still haven't seen that, unfortunately.
What is it, 14 or so games left in the season? I have some charters or pillars of my analyst, and I just don't talk about reaching potential in 5th years or 6th years. So I know he's 22 and stuff like that, but you're in your 4th year, man. You're not 22 anymore. You're a vet. And I want to see elements, whether it's assists. And like we said, sometimes the shot's not falling. But like you said, he keeps, it's low IQ. You keep taking that dribble and getting your shot swatted, like you just said, every freaking game a few times. It's like, what? This is crazy. Either you're fucking stupid or, you don't have the hops. Why do you keep doing this shit? And, so it's aggravating, I can't wait to us get Jalen back, and IQ had a great bounce back game yesterday. But RJ, when we needed you, 11 points on 12 shots. Yo, I don't need to say more after that.
I mean, I don't think it's necessarily him only shooting 12 shots. It's sometimes the shot selection. It's like, I don't necessarily need him to put up a lot of shots. I just need him to make the right play. So even if he only has 12 shots, let me get, 7, 8 assists. Let me get 7, 8 rebounds. Do something in other areas. Give me a couple steals. That's what you want to see from RJ Barrett when it comes to him stepping up in these scenarios, especially with Jalen Brunson being out. Yeah, you would like for him to take up a larger slice of that scoring breakdown, but in terms of what he's doing outside of that, you're still not seeing that. And I think if he's going to be one of those glue guys next to a Jalen Brunson and a Julius Randle, that's where we're going to need to see some major improvements from RJ's game, and he's just not giving that to us right now, unfortunately.
Game after game, I'm like, yo, RJ, oh man, he looked him off, man. That guy was open. It's like, what are you doing, man? Like you said, I'd rather you take the best shots, be 7 for 12 or 7 or 11. You want to get to the hole, fine, but get to the hole when either you get an and one or at least get fouled. But make it much more. But if you're clean, it goes for Randle. If you're not hitting your threes, then don't keep popping them up like that. And especially if you're hitting him, it means your legs are tired or whatever it is on this West Coast swing. Then go to a different way, or like you said, all right, let me make the guys around me better. So we have like 14 games left or something like that, and he still has like a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. And you're like, I was hoping to see much more areas of improvement into your game. So you've regressed miserably on defense.
Yep.
You haven't shown from a playmaking perspective. You're just an average rebounder. Especially when you see how Josh Hart rebounds at in that position, he's a monster. And it was brutal yesterday, folks. On second chance points, we were 5. I'm glad we could get the rebound for a second chance point, but when you're 5 for 18, that we couldn't hit a damn shot.
Yep. It's crazy. Especially when we would look like offensive juggernauts just a few games ago.
Just a few. But you know what? You and I talked off that, the big win in the Celtics, there were a couple things that, because of the win, that got lost in the sauce. In 2 overtimes, we only had 18 assists in that game, folks. That's a real bad sign that's things that come back, and Mitch, and I mentioned this to you also that, the stats, hey, double-digit rebounds, the stats and what my eyes tell me are 2 different things. I don't see that elite rim protection that I thought we were going to get from Mitch. I don't know if he's still, not in shape from the injury with the finger but stupid fouls. There just seems like, where's the development on, he looks gassed after only a couple of minutes in the game. And his hands. It's like, I felt like Nerlens Noel ghost was taking over his body yesterday. His hands at different points. Like, God damn it. Why are these guys passing to him when he has these hands? And also, why are you bringing the ball down? You're taught as a big man from this high, you don't bring the ball down. If you're a big man, you keep the ball up there. And he brings the ball down, stolen.
Mitch is still my guy, Foxy. I don't know what you're talking about. The only issue I got with Mitch is the fact that he was doing a terrible job guarding the 3. I'll give you that. I'll concede there. But other than that, leave my guy Mitch alone.
Like Sabonis didn't need him up in the paint either.
Sabonis was cooking him in the paint. I'm not even going front with that one. I'll give you that one as well. But it's going to take some time for him to recuperate and come back. He did miss a substantial amount of time, so we got to work on his conditioning. It takes Mitch a little bit of time to get back into the flow of things. So give my man a couple more games, and we'll see how we can go from there. This is going to be another big test in this game, though. That's for sure.
Yeah. Did you notice, though, and this irks me with that guy, that before the Randle meltdown, there was a shot on the sidelines where they came back, or I don't know the exact time, but he was laughing sitting on the bench with D Rose. And it's like, you're just always a goof, man. I've been looking for maturity. It's like when you see Jalen Brunson injured watching the game, you swear he's a coach. He ain't laughing, he ain't goofing. He's into it, man. He's really serious about his team winning. And some of these guys, they look disinterested when they're not on the court. And that's not the type of players, give me more Josh Harts, give me more IQs, give me more Quintons. guys like that are they're serious about the game.
Josh Hart cracked some jokes on the sideline too with Jalen Brunson. You got to have some fun. Remember, Foxy, it's a game as well.
I know, but not when you're losing.
True. I hear you. I hear you. You'd like them to be bought in a little bit more, especially when you're losing. But if you're not losing big, you know, if you're still in the midst of the game, there's nothing wrong with taking a second to chop it up with your teammate real quick, especially if it's a back and forth action.
Or they're making fun of Tibbs comb over. I could laugh at that.
They might be. They might be. You never know. We got a super chat from Buzzer Beater. Thank you for the contribution. We really do appreciate it. He says, appreciate you, Foxy, spitting facts about RJ just now.
Yeah, appreciate you too, Buzzer Beater. You're awesome.
So let me just pop out the chat to make it a little bit easier for me to see. I'm over here squinting like crazy. All right. See what else we got going on in chat. Canal Ben Lawyer, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate the support. Geraldine McGyver, First Lady of SVTV, thank you for pulling up. Jesco, salute to you. Also want to give a big shout out to Jesco. He was the creative department, I would guess you want to say, behind a segment we did last week on IQ. He brought up a topic that we could discuss on IG. I really do appreciate that. Help the production of the show. So really do appreciate that. Let's see what we got going on. Anybody want to give a shout out to, Foxy?
Yeah, one of my favorite doctors, Shimmy MD's in the chat. Hope all is well with you and the family. Like you said, Jesco, I call him one of our field producers. JJ, the one, the only JJ. Hope all is well with you and the family. Gregory Weiner, Keith Turner, as always, thank you from day one. Appreciate you stopping by. YouTube clips and HM. We'll definitely Dwayne Dennis. Again, we really appreciate all the comments and stuff from all you guys, Wiseland, and we'll be chopping it up as Paul Butler as the show goes on.
Also, Jesco says, Knicks fans, again, being too reactionary. A couple games ago, we would have been the 4th seed. Now a couple losses while Brunson is out, and we're a playing team. Chill. I wouldn't say we're a playing team. I just start to lower my expectations as to how far we get in the playoffs because, yes, Jalen Brunson has been out, but based on the injury, it seems like it's going to take him some time to get back. And when he does get back, are they going to wait until he's 100% to play him? I don't think so. I think they're going to play him when he's right around 80, 85%. And, when you do that, you're not going to allow a player to heal 100% and get to a point where, you kind of stave off the likelihood of him re-injuring himself. So when we come and get to the playoffs, how healthy of a Jalen Brunson are we going to have at that point? Because if we don't have Jalen Brunson at 90, 95%, and we have Julius Randle looking the way he's looked in the last couple of games where teams are able to game plan and focus on him without Jalen Brunson out there, and you've seen how he crumbled, how far do you expect us to get in the playoffs? I don't think we're going to fall off the face of the map and get back into that playing territory. But right now, I'm looking at what we can do come playoff time. That's what I'm preparing for at this point as a fan. What are we going to do when we get into that first round of the playoffs? And with Jalen Brunson hurt, it kind of dims the outlook of this team for the end of the season, come postseason.
Yeah. When we first got him, we hoped that he'd be the stabilizing force that this franchise, and he has been. But with him out, we were destabilized all over again. And hopefully, IQ, he had a nice game yesterday, but from he doesn't do what Jalen does. And so I'm hoping the best for Julius, that he bounces back. We have a good game. We can get a win tonight. It'd do a lot for us. And if we can finish up, 1-4 or even 2-2, 1-3 and 2 or 2-2, I'd be really happy. We've got Portland after this. So
revenge game.
It's a revenge game with Cam and Josh too.
True that. Well, I don't know if it'd be a revenge game so much with Josh. I think he liked his time over there. Can't say the same about Cam over here. And we'll get into that as well, because Cam finally, let us know how he felt about his time here with the New York Knicks. So we'll dive into that as well. But since we're talking about Knicks news, let's get into a little bit of transactional move that I don't think has really been discussed much, and that's the fact that we've released Trevor Keels. So this is from Fred Catcher. Says not sure if this is out there or not, but the Knicks did not sign Trevor Keels to a second 10-day contract. Keels is now an NBA free agent. The Westchester Knicks will have his G League rights. The Knicks drafted the 19-year-old Keels with the number 42 pick this past summer. So basically, we punted on the draft entirely because we traded our first round pick in order to move off of some guys to free up space for Jalen Brunson. And now we've released Trevor Keels, who we picked with the 42nd overall pick. And, maybe he ends up back with the Westchester Knicks, but I think that remains to be seen so far.
He's better off going back to the Duke Blue Devils. Hey, folks, hopefully I've built trust over the last several years, the last 3 years with, I lived watching college games yesterday for doing our work for our draft coming up. And you saw how animated I was when they took Trevor Keels. Like, that is a terrible pick. Why the hell did you just take Trevor Keels? I'd rather you have traded out. He wasn't a point guard. He wasn't a shooting guard. He's just an okay athlete. And we're all full up in this team on 6'4" guys. So I had no idea why the hell we took him. And I wish well for him, but he better learn a foreign language, man, because he ain't going to be playing in this league.
Yeah, I mean, at least, positive note, he was able to get up his first made bucket. What did he knock down, a three-pointer? I forgot what game it was.
Yeah.
Came in for garbage time, got himself a nice little bucket, so he made his first NBA basket. So that's nice for him. But unfortunately, the Knicks didn't have a space on the roster for him, so we downgraded him to a 10-day. And then now, not re-signing him. So wasted second round pick. And it sucks too, because you see what the Knicks have been able to do. We've been able to get contributors in the second round. So the fact that we missed out on Keels at number 42, I think, concerning, especially if it's a drafting where we didn't pick up anybody in the first round. You would have liked to have gotten a nice project in that second round that you could have, built up down in the G League.
Yeah, we'll be playing Portland the next game after tonight. And there's a kid on there, Jabari Walker. I don't know how much burn he'll get, but 6'8", shoots the three, has a great motor, son of a basketball player, Jabari Walker. So he knows the game. So it was like, hey, let's get somebody that's 6'8", a wing, and somebody, let's bring in something like that. But they did that. So like I said, I wish him well, but, he didn't bring any value.
Unfortunately, so it's unfortunate. So hopefully he'll be able to hopefully we'll be able to bring him back. We do have his rights in the G League, so hopefully he can get some burn there, and maybe we can turn around and extend him a contract if he shows some progress.
Exactly.
All right, so let's jump now into the next slide. Here we go. A little bit of an update on Jalen Brunson. So today he's out. But this is from Woj. It is increasingly unlikely that the Knicks will have Jalen Brunson back for the last two games of this West Coast road trip. So they already announced that he won't be available for the game tonight against the Lakers, and it seems like he won't be available for the game against the Trailblazers as well. So this is extremely concerning. He had to leave the game early against the Kings. Wasn't available for us against the Clippers. Won't be available tonight, and then won't be available in Portland. So that means the earliest he might be able to return is against the Denver Nuggets, which would be a big game. Us going up against Nikola Jokic and them. So maybe he'll be available. They still list him as quote unquote day to day, but still no concrete news as to when he'll be able to return.
Yeah, and nothing's worse than hearing re-aggravate. Re-aggravated the injury. It's like, maybe we brought him back too early, man. Maybe we should have said, you sit and we need you. We don't care if we sit you a week and whatever happens, but we need, when you come back, that you're going to be able to ball, and that we are going to have to light a candle and say, hopefully his ankle is going to hold up. Hey, we saw 2 years ago with D Rose. He comes from Detroit. He has this marvelous season, gets the bum ankle and couldn't play in the playoffs to the level that we hoped. And we hope that's not deja vu with running on one wheel with Brunson.
Because when did he initially hurt himself? He hurt himself in Miami, right? Finished the game. Then he was out Boston, out Charlotte, and then came back Sacramento, went down to the play in the second half, and then Clippers, Lakers, Portland will be the additional games missed. So, um, you know, we see how much this team really needs him. You want him to come back as quickly as possible, but if they got to shut him down for another week or two to make sure that he's going to be available for this final stretch, then I'd be open to it because we see that Manuel quickly when he's able to cook and his shot is falling. This team can't be competitive. We went out there, we played against the Celtics, was able to get a victory, even though it took us to double overtime. We were still able to play pretty good against them. You look at even against the Clippers. I think initially we played well. It's just that fourth quarter when the team got deflated by Julius Randle and his antics is when we really started to let go of the rope. So I think we can be competitive without Jalen Brunson. We just need Julius Randle to get it together and be that leader that this team needs when Brunson's not out there on the court. And if not Julius Randle stepping up as that leader, we need somebody else to do it. And that's the thing. I don't know if we have any other guy that can be that vocal leader. Maybe a Josh Hart, but he's fairly new in that locker room. Emmanuel Quickly, he's a young guy. I don't know if he'll be able to command the locker room like a guy with like Julius Randle in his stature would be able to. So that's another thing. If Randle isn't going to be that leader, who's going to step up and fill that void?
With you. I know Josh Hart. We have to be cool of Josh Hart. That he's true to the player he is. That he's not trying to take too much on his back and be something that he's not. So we know his motor and his hustle and those offensive rebounds and getting to the hole but also the basketball IQ. Gorgeous passes. He made a pass to iHeart. You could just see. So yeah. So I could see Hart doing some things, in the emergency of really helping us out on the playmaking side and other things. But it was funny that we talked about Rokas a couple of weeks ago, folks, that we may need a second team floor general on this team. And it's nothing against IQ. We love IQ. We've been talking about him getting his contract. So it's not against IQ. It's about players playing in the best place for them to have optimal performance. And, it looks like IQ's always best at the off guard, whether playing with a Brunson, whether in his rookie year playing with DeRozan. And I feel the same way that somebody, you look at, Memphis with Tyus Jones. He's that Brunson type of thing on the second team. That God forbid something happens on the first, he knows how to run the sets. He doesn't make mistakes. He's that stabilizing force, and that's invaluable. We need that type of person on the second team that can help out Brunson on minutes, and if he goes down, they could step up and do something. A field general. And that's something that, one of the areas of development for IQ, but I really think IQ at his best is as a off-ball secondary playmaker.
Yeah, I think Quick has definitely excelled in that role when he's able to cook as a scorer and not worry too much about finding others. Not to say that he has to be, one track minded and only look to score, but when option A is for him to try and find his own shot and then finding others once the defense tries to react towards him, I think that's when he's at his best, as opposed to just trying to go out there and be a maestro and things like that. Also, Quick has definitely been a spark plug for this team. If you look at the Knicks plus minus leaders, you can see that he's up there at the top of the list at plus 231. And then you can see some of the players that are following behind him. You got Randle at plus 142, iHeart plus 139, Brunson at plus 138, Mitch is at plus 136, Grimes plus 119, Hart, who just recently came to the team, he's at plus 110 already. Deuce is at plus 76, Obi at plus 22. And then you've got some of the guys that have, the team hasn't played too well with them on the court. We got Fournier at -2, Rose
Keep
at
going.
-29, RJ at 82, and then Sims at -96.
Yeah, -82. Fourth year, star on the rise, -82. That jumps off the page to me, folks. That's, you look at the other guys, that's plus. That's showing that the team plays better when they're there. -82 is crazy, man.
Yeah, minus 82 is definitely rough for a guy like RJ, especially when you think that this team is looking at him as somebody they want to build around. And as you can see by the numbers, team just does not, outscore teams when he's out there on the court. You can see that the team is much better when you've got guys like Emmanuel Quickly, um, Jalen Brunson, of course, Julius Randle, Quentin Grimes, Josh Hart. The team just functions a lot better with those guys out there. That's why when you see a lot of the closing lineups, you're seeing, Quick, Brunson, Hart, Randle, and either Mitch or iHart out there late in games because, we just are better offensively and we're also more sound defensively with those lineups out there on the court. So RJ is definitely going to have to turn things around this season if he wants to remain in New York because you look at the way Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle's contracts are set up, we've got about a 2-year window before we have to renegotiate with those fellas and give them a raise because with the way they've been performing, even with the fact that Julius Randle's having his, manic episodes out there on the court, if he were to hit the open market, he's going to get a raise off of what he's been paid so far this season. So when we have to renegotiate with those two, if the front office view them as two key pieces to help engineer this championship run, we're going to find ourselves in a position where we're not going to have enough money available to continue to build around those guys. So this next 2 years is going to be key in our championship pursuit. Not only that, Tom Thibodeau's what, 65?
65.
2 years he'll be 67. So they've got to win within his window, and we've got to win within Brunson and Julius Randle's contract window. So in order to do that, RJ Barrett is going to be a piece that they're probably going to dangle in trade talks. So
Yeah, no doubt. But and you said it perfectly that closing is not only about it's about stops. And if RJ can't get stops, how is he supposed to be closing?
hmm and the fact that Emmanuel Quickly is out there and he's the one helping us get those stops, and he's making some key buckets too at times, like in this game against the Celtics, he was key in the overtime period. So when it comes down to renegotiating a contract with him, it's going to be extremely difficult. They're saying he could potentially get some, mind blowing figures in terms of what he'll be offered in free agency.
I know they're talking 23, 24 million. And, that's really rich for what he's done so far. So this is a great segue.
Yeah, so this is an article from Zach Brazilla from the New York Post. It says currently the 23-year-old Quickly's cap hold, the placeholder amount the player counts against the team's salary cap until he either signs a new deal or has his rights renounced for the 24-25 season is 12.5 million, a figure that is tied to where he was selected in the draft, 25th overall in 2020. An extension would pay him more, similar to the 4-year, $95 million extension the Hawks gave to DeAndre Hunter last October. Now, the fact that they're using DeAndre Hunter's contract as something to go off of is kind of interesting to me because they play two different positions, and if you wanted to get to that $95 million number, you can just look at Scary Terry. I think when Scary Terry, he's a guy that was coming off the bench as a backup and then given the opportunity to start and excelled, and he got, I think, right around 4 years, 96, 97 mil. So to me, I think that's a better comparison as to what Emmanuel Quickly might get if you think he's going to get paid that much. And in my opinion, if he does get paid that much by the New York Knicks, then that all but guarantees that RJ Barrett's getting sent somewhere, because I think you would have to then start Emmanuel Quickly if you're going to be paying him that much money.
Exactly. So it would, not only that, I wouldn't be surprised Obi's on the same plane with RJ out of here. But just meaning that we're not going to have money to give a contract to Obi either.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're not giving Obi a contract. Obi's not going to want a contract. Playing 12 to 15 minutes a game, he's going to want to get out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, they've already talked about it. Bakley has mentioned that they've been reaching out to teams, one of them being the Pacers, trying to see if they can negotiate a trade to ship Obi out of here to a better location for him long term. So I don't see Obi on this team next year. And if so, I would ask why, because all you're going to do is further devalue him. You're going to have him in the final year of his rookie deal, playing him 12 to 15 minutes, getting very limited production. And then if you look at what other players that were drafted in similar positions, like a Rui or what's the guy that got sent over to the Hawks for 5 first?
Oh, Sadiq Bey.
Sadiq Bey, you look at those two, they've got very little in return for them on the trade market. So if we look at a guy like Obi, who I think is less established than those two when they got moved, you can only expect us to get even less.
I agree. I agree. But let me ask you a question. How would you feel 24 million for IQ for a guy that shot 39% his first 2 years from the floor, and also has never shot 40% in his life from 3-point land?
I mean, my thing, I'd be open to it because at least you see Emmanuel Quickly getting better. Like one thing we've said about Emmanuel
True.
Quickly, you've seen development in his game. You see him expand his ability to knock down shots from all three areas on the floor, whether that be in and around the paint, mid range, or from three. He's got his percentages up across the board, and we've seen ever since Tom Thibodeau has kind of given him more minutes, he's been playing better and better. So my assumption would be if you are able to elevate him to the starting lineup, he would continue that trend of playing better when given more minutes. And another thing you don't have to question is his defense. Yes, at times, he has been, cooked out there on the court, but for the most part, he's probably one of the best help defenders out there on the perimeter. And also at the point of attack, he's been solid. He's been able to use his length and be opportunistic in his, in trying to get steals and things like that. So at least with Emmanuel Quickly, there's a lot more things you can argue for when it comes to signing him to a longer term extension, if you're going to give him the opportunity to start. But still, if he's going to come off the bench, I still think that's a little bit too steep. Maybe 18 mil might be where I'd go. That's about the same you're paying a guy like Norman Powell. But 23, 24 mil, you're starting to look at a starter in my book.
Exactly. That's you're getting into RJ money.
Mm-hmm. Lexi Destroyer says Tibbs has been giving Obi the Kevin Knox treatment. Facts. Go stand in a corner somewhere. Pretty much.
Gives everybody the same treatment, Lex, if they don't play defense.
I don't know about that because there's times Julius Randle doesn't play defense and he's never just stood in the corner.
Baby doesn't stay in the corner. That's my baby. Baby Huey.
Let's see what else going on. Knicks Nation 112 says, salute Keys, Foxy, SV Nation, and Knicks Nation. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate the support.
Thank you.
HM says RJ just doesn't fit anywhere. Yeah, he's not an ideal fit. He fits a little bit better with that second unit when he's able to run the show and, have those guys feed off of what he's able to do out there on the court. But for the most part, he definitely has had a lot of trouble fitting with that starting unit. He's been the odd man out. And that's why you would have hoped with Jalen Brunson out that RJ could have stepped it up and got in a little bit more confidence out there and, established his shot a little bit better, seeing that he was going to have an increased usage. But, it's been the exact opposite for the most part.
Yeah. Hi, HM. Hope all is well with you and your family. That's a great comment. And it's funny because there's been so much effort putting into us finding complementary players to RJ. And the more we do it, we're finding that RJ's the uncomplimentary player. That, you bring in all these other guys, RJ's game is uncomplimentary. So he's the one that is showing that, wow, there are different elements of the game that we just touched on earlier in our conversation, whether it is playmaking, whether it's his defense, whether, it's his shooting, whether it's not getting his shot blocked, just playing heads, smart, tough basketball, physical basketball that I don't know what complimentary players you could put around him. He's the odd man out. Especially when you're negative 80, what was it? 80, yeah, that's crazy. This is, like we said, 14 games to go. I'm all about sample sizes, and that's not a isolated data point. That's a trend analysis that for a whole season, man, he's just been consistently bad, that he gives up more points than he scores.
Yeah, and since we're talking about RJ, let's do a little bit of deep diving into his shot profile and see what he's doing out there on the court. So last week, we looked at Emmanuel Quickly's percentage of field goal attempts by distance and his field goal percentage by that distance. Now we're going to be looking at RJ. One of the things that kind of sticks out to me is the low percentage on the two-pointers. Only 48.5% on two-point shots. If I'm not mistaken, Emmanuel Quickly was, 54% or something in that ballpark? So
something in that ballpark.
Yeah, so you look at a guy like Emmanuel Quickly, who's smaller and, probably shouldn't be shooting a higher percentage than RJ just terms on just in terms of RJ being the taller guy, more physical, should be able to finish with a little bit more ease in the paint. You're just not seeing that. Also, you look at the 3 point percentage, only 32.1 percent from three, when right around 34% of those shots that he takes are from the 3 point range. So you would like him to knock those down a lot better. Also, the corner three, only shooting 32.7 from that corner three. That's the easy three ball. And I think if you look at what RJ does, a lot of his shots from the three are in that corner because he's able to sit there when guys like Brunson or Randle are able to penetrate and things like that. So for him to be shooting that poorly from both 2 pointers and from the three, and especially the corner three, I think that's pretty troubling. So Foxy, anything that jumps out to you on this page?
Blocked, like you said, shout out to Jesco again, but when you look at the block shots, and we looked at IQ last week, I think he had like 24, 25 for the season. This is a guy that was out because of that bad finger injury. So he has 80, even being out with that field, he would have been way over 100, and I wouldn't be surprised in the last 14 games that he still hits 100 shots blocked. You're in your fourth season. So either, like I said, it just jumps off the page, low IQ, that why aren't you, look at the amount of middies he's taking. Why aren't you pulling up and taking a midi? Why are you taking that extra dribble into the land of the Giants and getting your shot blocked? And it kills momentum, and he's late on getting back on defense. He's arguing. He's got the Julius itis where he's arguing the calls. So you look at that and you're like, wow, but he has to really adapt his game for him to be able to reach his potential.
I mean, even on those mid-range shots, the percentage he's shooting is troubling. 29.8 this season on shots between 10 and 16 feet. I think that's rough. It's not a high volume, but you got to knock down that shot much more efficiently. That should be his bread and butter, especially when that 3-point shot isn't exactly consistent. So for him to only be shooting that poorly, is troublesome. And he's been shooting that poorly from that area since he got into the league. 27.7% during his rookie season, 31.5% in year 2, 30.9% in year 3, and 29.8% this year in year 4. Those are all troubling to me. You would like to see him start to progress and get a little bit better knocking down those shots, even if the volume doesn't increase, but he's still shooting poorly from that area. And I don't think he's going to unlock his full potential until he can start, knocking down that shot consistently and giving defenses some other things to worry about whenever he drives. Because for the most part, when he drives right now, he's going to try to get left. And if he's not going to get left, you can at least force him into a difficult shot attempt. And, unless he has a counter where he can, try to, free himself up, create some separation in that mid-range and knock down shots, he's going to be extremely limited offensively.
Yeah, coming out of Duke, when I was doing assessment of him, the last couple of years he's worked with Drew Hanlon, and I always talk about that you could work with your shooting gurus and you could really improve your shooting form, your mechanics, your release point, your guide hand, all of those things, your foot, that you replicate the same thing from muscle memory. But shooting touch is something from God. I've never seen anybody that improves their shooting touch. They can do their mechanics. We've seen, for 4 years now, he has hands of stone. He's not a guy with touch. And you just see that. And, one of the things that opened up Keith and I our eyes this year was early in the year, we went into the lab and looked at, this is before the fourth season started, in his third year, thanks to cleaning the glass, we looked at all of his shooting, both frequency, but mostly accuracy, from rim, short mid-range, long mid-range, three, corner three, all these different elements. And we did exhaustive research, folks, and there's only been one player ever to make an all-star team with R.J. Barrett's career shooting records, and that was Draymond Green. And that's because he made it for other reasons, obviously. And also we belong to all these different things, Keith and I. And one of the things that one of the subscription services, they have a player projection module that they go use their database and they project where he's going to be. And they projected him just being an average starter. They, with all of the things comparing to other players, what he's accomplished and everything, they don't see anywhere near an all-star player for this guy. And they're going out 5 years in their projection. And it was crazy because Keith and I looked at each other when we put in IQ. We first put in RJ and it said average starter, and we're like looking, and they're also saying the salary, that what his market value worth is. And we're like, oh my God, the Knicks paid like $25 million more than what they're saying. And then we put in IQ and they're saying future all-star based on everything we're seeing. And then we put in Quentin Grimes and they said a rotational player. So they're looking at all the data of past and came up with all these figures. And obviously it's numbers, doesn't mean, but they have a very, very good track record, and again, it just like getting back to the charts we're looking at, not shooting well from here, and it's been consistent from the day he's coming to the league. And when you're a number 3 pick, there's expectations that you're not going to have incremental development, growth in your talent, that you're going to hit something. You look at Simons, Anthony Simons on Portland, and all these different guys. There's a leap. Where's the leap on RJ?
It remains to be seen. Definitely remains to be seen. But yeah, when we did that deep dive, looking at what RJ could be in terms of who he can be, in terms of like an all-star player, for us to see he was just going to be a regular role player was startling. And I think they mentioned that he should only be getting paid around $80 million or something like that.
That was his value, $80 million.
And we signed him to what, $120 with incentives?
Yeah. And they said like it was $120 was IQ's value. So basically they were saying that the contract we gave RJ was the contract we should have really given IQ.
Quickley, yeah. Yeah, man. It'll be interesting this offseason to see what they decide to do, because if RJ continues to play like this, they might be forced to move on from him to bring in somebody else before he continues to further devalue himself. Because like I said, I think he can still be a solid player. He just might not be a good fit next to Julius Randle and a Jalen Brunson. So we'll see.
He'd be a good fit on a bad team.
So send him over to Detroit?
Well, where he can get all his shots. And like we said, a lot of people, what are you doing? He's 22 years old. He scores 20 points a game. How many 22-year-olds score 20 points? And you're like, whoa. What about efficiency? What do you mean? What about it? The conversation's over. He's an inefficient player. He doesn't make the players around him better. When you looked at Quickley's plus minus, he has a higher plus minus than the whole team, but when you have that, you make the players around him better. Josh Hart, even on a bad Portland team, had unbelievable plus minus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he contributes to winning basketball. You can't say the same about RJ just yet.
But not only this year, but last year. You look at RJ's on-off, they're better for the last several years with RJ off it. It's not just this year.
Which is extremely discouraging, seeing that we picked him.
And rewarded him with a contract when we're better with him off the court.
And the crazy part is we gave him the contract when we were at gunpoint almost, because it seemed like we only really did it to kind of save face for not being able to secure that Donovan Mitchell trade.
Yeah, and we did the same stupid shit with Mitchell. I still would, I wouldn't have had no problem if we didn't sign Mitch and we drafted, Mark Williams or even Durant. You look at Jalen Duran's stats, like I said, second in double-doubles for centers and all these other things. And just his offensive potential in a half a season is greater than Mitch after 5 seasons.
Easy P says they paid RJ with expectations of a leap. I thought he would take off this year and show some serious growth. You and me too, Easy P. I thought they were going to pay him. He was going to, step up. He was finally going to get a point guard in Jalen Brunson and start cooking, but it's been the exact opposite. He's kind of fallen off the face of the earth in terms of defense, and offensively, he's still continuing to struggle. He's getting his shot blocked repeatedly, not knocking down the three-point shot. He's forcing the issue now, which is resulting in more boneheaded turnovers. It's stressful.
lazy passes, terrible lobs. Bitch is
Hmm.
going to get hurt because he can't give him a goddamn accurate lob.
Yeah, it's been rough. And him and Mitch used to have good chemistry. So to see them start to struggle a little bit more in terms of knocking down that alley oop, a little bit upsetting.
Yep.
Okay, so now let's compare R.J. Barrett to a guy a lot of people say he should be mirroring his game after, and that's DeMar DeRozan. So we see, you look at R.J. Barrett, the percentage of field goal attempts by distance. So 33.5 again for the three pointers. He's not really shooting too many long twos at 2.6%, and he's only shooting 5.7% of his shots from 10 to 16. And you compare that to a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who his bread and butter is in that mid range. So you're seeing about 27% of his shots come from that 10 to 16 range, and then 33.9 come from that 16 to 3 point range. So Foxy, anything that jumps out the page to you?
Yeah, we don't want to be so radical that we're saying that we want him to mirror RJ, mirror DeMar, and have only like 9% of your shots being through from 3 point. But we're saying that there has to be some level of moderation. He's shooting 27% from 10 to 16 feet, DeMar, and he's a mid-range assassin. So we're saying, you know what? I have no problem going from 5% to maybe 15%. And like we're saying, we just saw. But why would you do that? You're getting 80 shots blocked, in 69 games. So you're on pace for 100 shots blocked. So maybe you should be pulling up for a midi and not getting your shot blocked. And if guys like DeRozan has had a career doing that, some games you'll be doing it. But don't keep going 1 for 7 from 3. And they're bricks. They're not even close, man. So it's like, pull up and have these 10 to 16 foot from the elbow or from the foul line. We've seen a couple that I've seen this year. I'm like, RJ, that's the key to your future, son. You keep hitting those like that, and what's going to happen, you hit those consistently, the defenders are going to take one step towards you at the foul line. That's when you go past them for the shot at the hole. You're going right into their strong thing now. Now you got to bait them to come out a couple of steps for you to get the angle from it's all about positioning and angles, man. And I don't know if you noticed this, but it's becoming even more radical to me, or whether it was the Celtics game. Look at their positioning on RJ. They're really playing him to go left now. They're literally, watch their physical positioning, the defenders now. It's more, it's more blatant than ever that they're just going, we're forcing you to go to right. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why he's so inefficient.
Yep. CAA Mafia says RJ has the worst percentage in league on dribble pull-ups. Well, yeah, because he keeps doing that from 3, and he's not knocking down threes. Great on catch and shoot. So imagine if he had to dribble and create his own shot from 3. And if you look, he's not really shooting too many shots in that mid range. So the stat of him not having great percentages on dribble pull-ups, I think, is more so to do with him taking tough shots from 3, as opposed to him not being able to create his own shot in the mid range and knock down his, a 10 or 15 footer consistently.
Yeah, that, or maybe he's showing IQ by saying I can't hit a goddamn pull up, so maybe I should shoot really not a lot of them, percentage wise.
And he was starting to showcase a little bit of a floater as well. That's completely gone. I don't know where that went.
Yeah, and also like you said, there's times it's like it just comes out of his hand. You watch a Trey, you watch all these guys on their floaters, like, look at that touch, man. It's like soft. It just goes in. It's like a brick when it leaves his hand, man. That ball just doesn't like the rim when he lets go of it.
Yeah, definitely has to get better touch. Here we got a drill down of the same 10 to 16 and 16 to 3 point. You can see, again, RJ just really doesn't shoot too many of them. Meanwhile, you look at DeMar, and he has a steady diet. So as a defender, you don't know if he's going to take you to the hole. You don't know if he's going to stop short, pull up from 16 to 20 feet. And with that with the ability to be able to knock down shots in so many different areas on the court, it allows, or it forces defenders to kind of second guess what they're doing and what you're trying to do and what spot you're trying to get to out there on the court. So if RJ Barrett can mix it up just a little bit, he can, maybe see some more success, because right now it's either he's going to shoot a 3 or he's going to drive left and try to lay the ball up. There's really no in between. And when you are that When you're that
Predictable.
predictable, thank you, Foxy. It's a lot easier for teams to shut you down and the teams to game plan against you. So that's something RJ is definitely going to have to step up moving forward if he's going to become a better player or a better offensive player here in the league.
Yeah, and the SV Nation, the eyes don't lie. That, like Keith just said, either drive or catch and shoot threes. And if he has to make a shot, it's like you could have a cigarette. It takes forever from dribble between, and it's like 5 seconds, 10 seconds off this is not, I don't know how this is going to end. He's just, like I said, you watch Anthony Simons, 1-2 dribbles, boom, gets a shot. Yo, that was sweet, man. He can make a shot. This guy can't make a shot. His shot is like dribbling to the left, driving to the left. That's his shot making, his shot creation.
Yeah, anytime RJ takes more than 4 or 5 dribbles, I'm not too confident he'll be able to get a good look.
Exactly.
All right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Miguel P says efficiency is the product of taking high percentage shots and having creativity. RJ plays like an NPC. That's a good one. G. Robinson said, could you compare RJ to Jimmy Butler offensively? That's something we can definitely put together and do that on the show.
Yeah, but it'll probably break your heart, G. We can knock that out. That's easy peasy for us. But thank you for saying that, because RJ has been compared for the last few years, as a person that'll be like, he is nothing like Jimmy Butler. He'll never be Jimmy Butler in a million years. So please, folks, the only thing they have in common, they play for the same coach. That's it.
Yeah, especially defensively,
especially defense, and also just from being a dog. Mm-hmm. He ain't a dog in my book.
Yeah, you hoped RJ Barrett would be able to play some sort of defense to close to the level of Jimmy Butler, but he's nowhere near the type of defense
athletic
Jimmy Butler. Yeah, doesn't have.
And this is an old man Butler,
not as physical as Jimmy Butler, so leaves a lot to be desired defensively. And there were signs in year 2 that he could, he had the tools to be a solid defender. And I don't know what's happened over the last couple of years.
15 pounds.
Oh, yeah,
I'm serious. Pounds? I think he's 10 to 15 pounds heavy.
I wouldn't go against you in that regard. Maybe lose some of the weight, because he does look like he's moving in molasses. I got it out. I'm like, come on, bro.
He's moving like he had that good moon rocks. I'm telling you.
So now let's look at a shot chart for RJ Barrett. You can see from the left side, that's where he's shooting above NBA average at 42.9%. Another area he's shooting above league average is from the left 3, 36.8%, which is above league average. But every other spot on the court, he's shooting well below league average. So another instance of area of improvement. He just has to be more efficient, and he has to knock down. He has to do a better shot, he has to be better at knocking down shots, because so far it's been ugly this season.
Yeah, and folks, when we referenced us doing our homework in the lab on looking at players that made all-star games from first season or something, like, wow, they got to develop their 3, but from the beginning, they were elite in green, shooting from, at the rim or a midi or something like this. This takes your breath away. This is a number 3 pick, and you're like, oh my God. So, the black folks that's the league average. Everything with the white font and the black, that's league average. And you're saying, oh my God, man. And even where he's in the green, he's barely above league average. It's not like he's blowing that away. So it's like, how this is a key part of our core who can't shoot from anywhere. He doesn't have a hot zone that he can call his own. When we talked about Brunson, or you talked about Fournier has a couple of hot spots, folks, where he's a lead in the league. Out of the whole league, nobody shoots better threes in certain spots than Fournier. This guy, so he blows it away. So this is very troubling, this shot chart.
And if you wanted to look at another player just to get a good comparison, we also put together Quentin. Whoopsie. There we go. All right, we do have Grimes. So now look at Quentin Grimes and how he's able to look when he's putting shots up. So you can see.
I'm getting dizzy.
Right? You and me both. So from the left side of the court, you can see Uh, Quentin Grimes is a pretty good job of knocking down shots. The issue with Grimes is more so the right side of the court, but at least you can dial some plays up to get Quentin Grimes in areas where he's able to knock down the shot pretty efficiently. That entire left side of the court, Quentin Grimes, if you're able to dial up a play and get him over there, he can knock down the shot with high effect with pretty good. He can be pretty
Effectiveness.
effective over there on that side of the court. But you look at RJ once again, really don't see any zones where you can say, all right, we can dial up a play for RJ, get him to a spot, and be comfortable with the shot that you're able to produce.
Exactly. So, we added a new template, folks, going forward. So for different players, we'll be able to show you shot charts from the different hot zones. So we love giving you new features here. So this is this week, a new feature for us, being able to show you the different hot zones for the different players. And it takes you, like I said, you can lose your appetite looking at RJ's field goal percentage shot chart.
Oh, man, I'm all over the place today, Foxy. What's going on here?
I don't know, but I want to party with you.
All right. Let's get back to
it. Well, keep going to wasted, because that's what I'm going to be after this show, wasted.
Once again, you can look at Quentin Grimes and see his shot profile, and again, compare that to RJ Barrett. And you could just see. And even though, Grimes doesn't get up a lot of shots, or when he does get up those shots, he's able to knock them down somewhat efficiently, especially from his areas out there on the court. Like, once again, you can dial up a play for Quentin Grimes over on that left side of the court and be pretty confident that if he gets the ball at his spot, he'll knock it down. But with RJ, there's very little, very little about his game that's confidence inspiring at this point.
Yeah, I don't know where you could go from there, man. In his fourth year.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's troubling, but again, I'm not ready to count him out just yet. Again, he's 22. The only thing is, I don't know if will be able to give him the opportunity to figure it out. We may have to move on from him and bring in somebody else.
Do you have that tweet where that person discussed possibly one of the issues with RJ?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because when we've seen him, last year going on have a spurt of really quality play and stuff like that, it all came back to one word, folks, and that was aggressive. Him being aggressive with that mindset. So, I'll let you take it from here on, Jake Brown.
Yeah, so here's the tweet. It says, why RJ Barrett's shot selection changes the outcome of a game for the Knicks. The difference I've seen comes down to his aggression and his IQ, knowing when to take a lane and when to kick out. When RJ doesn't have an aggressive mindset, the lower the shot quality is. And the only thing, though, is sometimes he can be overly aggressive. Like we've seen recently, he's just completely looking off teammates. So there's also a balance. He has to find a middle ground in between being too passive when he's out there with Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson, and looking for his shot a little bit too much when he feels like the game is slipping away and he has to do something in order to help, will the team back into a good position.
I think that why Jake put in there the IQ part. Like you said, there's times he dribbles right into, defenders. And it's like, and sometimes he dribbles into three defenders in the paint. So you're like, yo, what's up with that? And also, if you're going to be doing that and having them converge on you, at least kick it out then. Like he said, do something good. But then you're like, here comes a turnover, a bad shot, and a lot of times it's just a brick. And you're like, whoa, you missed that one. And how many times we're like saying, man, he missed the bunny. He missed the bunny. He missed the bunny. He missed the bunny. So, but he's right. Shout out to Jake, man. It's about him being aggressive, but also it's about that IQ. And when is that going to happen? Year 5?
Yeah. And he better figure it out quickly, because we've got a guy like Josh Hart who's a favorite so far of Tibbs. You've seen since Josh Hart has been here, he's been the one closing games, and he's been a spark plug for this team, especially with the elevation of Emmanuel Quickley into the starting lineup. Josh Hart has kind of been that microwave off the bench, and he's not always doing it offensively. Sometimes he's doing it with just his pure hustle, defense, and the ability to secure rebounds and things like that. This is from Tom Piccolo. He says he's blown away by some of the rebounds Josh Hart is able to track down. Stats back up the eye test of the 47 players averaging 7+ rebounds per game. Hart is tied for first in average rebound distance. His nose for the ball is incredible. And he said this during an interview talking about, how him playing as a outfielder when he was younger helped him, track down the ball and things like that. And you've seen it time and time again in games. He's been able to understand where a rebound is going to head, and he's been able to position himself to secure the rebound. So this is definitely a big bonus. It's going to be big for this team, especially once we're able to start finishing some of those offensive rebounds, at least finishing putbacks after we secure the offensive rebounds. I think this team is going to be, extremely dangerous. We just have to get healthy and get Brunson back.
Yeah, shout out to Tom Piccolo. We appreciate all the content you put out there. But it was funny when I read this and I saw the previous tweet that you just showed. The thing that came to my mind were two words. Why is Josh Hart, successful? Aggression and IQ. The two things that you just talked about, RJ, him going coast to coast, him fighting for loose balls, all that aggression, and also just IQ, his assist, him getting the balls, trying to make everyone better. Hey, man, that guy he only had yesterday, folks, 4 assists? He had 4 assists. He could have easily had 8 assists. Nobody was hitting the shots on those. You get the rebound, he kick it out, showing he's a good teammate and giving up his own shot. I wish sometimes he looks afraid to take the 3 lately, Josh, and he dribbles and gives it up, but he's playing real team, but he's the epitome of aggression and IQ, and that's something hopefully that some of that could rub off on RJ.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Let's see what else we got going on. Another one from Fred Katz talking about Josh Hart and his ability to finish, because we've seen him go coast to coast. He's like a Tasmanian devil pushing the rock, getting the ball up the court and finishing. He says, I don't have to do all that cute fancy shit. 2 points for me is 2 points. Josh Hart is a simple finisher. So why is he so good at it? Because, he's like a pit bull almost when he's in transition. He's able to be physical and get some clearance when he's trying to get to the basket. And he's also able to catch a lot of opposing teams off guard. They're not really expecting him to push the ball with the amount of speed and ferocity that he's able to do once he's able to get the rebound. And he catches a lot of teams sleeping. So to me, that's a couple reasons why Josh Hart is so good at finishing in transition.
Exactly. It comes back to that aggression and IQ all over again. Thanks, Fred.
Yep. So we got this from David Smart. He says, Jay Hart is really good rebounder, tough player, but can't shoot. I don't know. He's been shooting pretty efficiently for us. He just has to trust the jump shot. What is he shooting? 60% from the field and 60% from 3 since he's been here?
Correct.
Of course, it's a small sample size. You wouldn't expect him to continue to shoot like that. But if he's given wide open looks, he's been able to knock it down efficiently.
And again, looking at that plus minus, giving up he's everything that Tibbs talks about. We don't want good shots. We want the best shot on the court. And he's willing to do that, while some of the other guys, like you said, RJ, you got 2 guys. What are you doing? Oh, that was a bad shot. Very seldom you ever say that about Josh. In fact, just the opposite sometimes. Come on, Josh, take that shot. We trust you. Even if you miss it, you got to take that shot.
Yep.
We have a super chat
from Buzzer Beater. Says, could it be RJ is afraid to make a mistake? It could be, but I think RJ's been given long enough a leash to the point where he shouldn't be too concerned about missing. And if he is too concerned about missing, then you got to question, why is he putting up some of these real bad shots that you saw, especially in the last couple of games when he's been forcing the issue. If he's scared to put shots up, there was a couple plays where he should have been benched after he took some real bad shots, whether it be in transition or just going nut with the ball. So I don't think he's too afraid to make a mistake, but I think there's some weight to that, because if you look at what Cam Reddish had to say, so could be something that is in the back of his head. He doesn't want to make too many mistakes because he knows he'll be benched for a guy like Hart or Grimes. But I think when you look at the deal he negotiated a started salary. So go out there and perform to that level. And if you perform to that level, you really shouldn't be concerned about missing a shot. It happens. You just can't. I'd be more concerned about taking bad shots as opposed to missing quality shots.
One of the worst things that happened to RJ is when he was around 15 years old, folks, people were talking about him before the McDonald's, All-American, before he got to college. They were talking that he was going to be like the next LeBron. Seriously. They were like, he was the top guy coming out into the thing. So he had all this in his head that he was going to be this star. And he gets picked number 3. And he's just never been anywhere near stardom. And I think when you're told that you're great, and then the reality is different on the court, that can mess up a young man's head.
Don't disagree with you there, Foxy. Let's see what we got going on. Pudge Knight says Jay Hart's got to step it up. I think he's been one of the most solid guys off the bench. You could always ask for guys to give you a little bit more. But even if you look at what he did against the Clippers, 32 minutes, 3 of 6 from the field, 4 of 4 from the free throw line, which is big. We've been missing free throws like crazy recently. -1 and plus-minus. Which is
rebounds.
Other than Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes had a 0 plus-minus. And Josh Hart would be the next best at -1, him and Hart. So
by the way, what was RJ's plus-minus?
His was brutal, -21. His was terrible.
Yeah.
Pudge Knight
and the funny part is, look at the Clippers, their plus-minus for the team, both starters and the second team.
Well, everybody was positive, but
exactly.
Look at Paul George; he was +21. Yeah, man. We definitely do have an RJ issue. It's just, what's the solution? That's where a lot of the dialogue stems from. How are we going to solve it? What are we going to do to get RJ to start playing better? And if he doesn't start playing better, what are we going to do with him long term?
Not going to get faster. He's not going to jump higher. He's not going to have a quicker first step. I don't know if he's going to find touch. I just don't know. It has me baffled. I was just hoping that he would show, like you said earlier, Keith, the other elements of the game for us, like you just said about Josh Hart. It may be a pedestrian or blue collar, lunch pail type of work that he does, but he's a winner. I'd rather be a blue collar type of player that's 110 plus 110 than a guy who thinks he's a star at -83.
Yep. And then Eddie F says this team has a low floor because of poor and streaky shooting. So let's look at a little bit more of the team's shooting. And this time we have it broken down by shot type. So if it's green, that's where, if the box is green, meaning the background is green, that means the majority of their points are scored from that shot type. If the number is green on a black background, that's a place where they should probably be taking more shots. And then if it has a red background, that means they're shooting below league average. And it was pretty funny, too, because as we were talking about this slide, we were talking about Jalen Brunson and his catch and shoot field goal percentage. And to start that Sacramento Kings game, he had 2 knockdown threes from that were catch and shoots. So it was just pretty much solidifying what we thought in terms of what Jalen Brunson has been doing in catch and shoot. He's been shooting it well. He needs to actually get more of those, be put in more of those situations where he's able to knock down catch and shoot threes and things like that. And I think you can find ways to do that if you have RJ Barrett playing a little bit better, because then you can have Brunson move off ball. Or you could also do that in situations where you have Brunson and Emmanuel Quickley out there together, when those two can kind of play off of each other. So definitely an area that we should try to get Jalen Brunson featured a little bit more when he comes back. Another area you can look at, Quentin Grimes, pull up, maybe a little bit more, especially when he starts to attack closeouts instead of getting all the way to the rim. Maybe he can start pulling up in that mid-range area. Same thing with Josh Hart. You see, once he's able to attack the paint, similar to a Quentin Grimes, and put the ball on the floor, he might have some opportunities to knock down some pull-up middies as well. Same thing, you look at Mitchell Robinson. We would like to see him get a little bit more shots in the post. We've seen some. I think he did throw up a hook shot at one point. It didn't really make it, but that was a long time ago. Can we see a little bit more, Mitch? You want to see some offensive development from him. So, Foxy, anything on this slide that jumps out to you that you want to mention?
Yeah, like you said, you did great. Like you said on catch and shoot, hey, coming into this year, Jalen Brunson is an assassin from corner threes in his previous years. So that would be a perfect thing for him to hit corner threes, So if you give it to Randall and they converge, kick it out to him. So we'd love to see that. And like you said, which is really descriptive that, RJ, you said earlier, is drive or catch and shoot. And then you look at the chart and it absolutely, corroborates that's his game. And pull-ups 25%. That's terrible field goal percentage, on pull-ups. So I forgot who said it in the chat. That's really bad. And also some flowers here for Julius Randle. We didn't want to do it, but in the paint, in the post, he's probably one of the most, besides Brunson, one of the most diverse guys that he's really hitting from all over. We didn't want to put Green all over. The majority of his points obviously are in drives, catch and shoot, and pull-ups, but he gets points in the paint. He gets points in the paint, but not when he's under the basket. I've never seen a more challenge guy at 6'9". He just gets his shot blocked once he's under the basket. But he can. There's so many areas that he can beat you. And like you said, this is a league of watching film, tendencies, and stuff like that. If they know, let's say on RJ, that you're only going to drive, or they're not worrying about you doing all those other elements. And the thing that bothers me on RJ, we didn't put it in the green, is that, hey, on switches where he's against an undersized shooting guard, why aren't you posting him up?
He tried. I think he did a couple times on Marcus Smart, and it really didn't get the desired effect.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, he does try to post up a little bit, but it looks a little quirky. He doesn't look like he's comfortable with his back to the basket, or as comfortable as he should be, especially with him being 6'7" and being bigger than some of these smaller guards out there on the court.
Exactly.
David Smith says, "What excuses will Wally and Alan Hahn make for the Knicks next?" Company men waving the pom-poms. Listen to Wally on the call, man. Sometimes you're just like, oh, man, this guy's the ultimate homer. Like, bro, what are you watching?
True that. Yeah. That's why I love Clyde.
Clyde keeps it
you
real.
You should never put a cross pass. Boxing out is a lost art. He calls it like, what the hell were you thinking there? I love you, Clyde. I love you, Clyde. I love you, Clyde. And you hear some of the other guys, like you said, Homer. What kind of...
Man, at least Clyde keeps it real.
Love Clyde. Favorite player in history.
Speaking of keeping it real, SVG was killing Randle. What game was it where they was going after Randle every single play? Was it the Kings game? I think that was the one that SVG was on the call. He was violating him. The Kings are just going after Randle every single play. And he wasn't lying, but I'm like, holy smokes, you could have said it a lot nicer.
Yeah, folks, we mentioned it last week. We've had a revelation this year. Usually, if it's not Clyde on MSG, I turn the sound off if it's ESPN or TNT and watch the game because I don't need to hear their shit. But now with JD, at least I could listen to JD call the game, even though there's a little delay. But hear a great play-by-play guy in JD do the game. So if you haven't watched it, he'll be on tonight, I believe. Fantastic job bringing in all different elements to it. Shout out to our friend. He's doing he's killing it. But there's no reason to listen to these people that hate the Knicks and take every jab that they can at them.
Yeah, salute to JD. Definitely tune in over on Knicks Fan TV when he does the play-by-play.
Yeah, shout out to CP2.
Yep.
Legend.
Facts. Salute to them. So, Foxy, let's talk about Julius Randle a little bit more. We've mentioned already here on the channel that when Julius Randle seems tired, is that it seems like everything just falls apart. And I think for the last few games, you've really seen that start to rear its ugly head. You saw what happened in the game yesterday, him having that explosion or implosion. Well, I guess you can call it an explosion because he kind of had a lot of other people in his crosshairs outside of him just having his own personal meltdown. So he exploded towards the end of that third quarter with only, 0.3 seconds left in the quarter. And the Knicks had a lead, which to me was what's so mind-boggling. Like, why were you that upset when your team is winning? Like, yes, you might have felt you were wronged, but just because you are wrong doesn't mean you have to go and completely throw everything out the window and, jeopardize that win for your team. So to me, in the first place, that was just completely upsetting as a Knicks fan. And we already mentioned that there's not going to be a lot of opportunities for Julius Randle to get some rest. So, what type of Randle are we to expect come playoff time?
I don't know. Meaning, as you said, if it's an exhausted Randle, it's going to be a bad Randle. That's the trigger.
All right, have here I have on screen. If you look at the 2021 playoffs, by the time we got to the playoffs, Julius Randle had played 2,667 minutes, which was 71 games, 71 out of 72, might I add. And now in this last three games, Julius Randle has played so far this season 2,480 minutes, which I believe is the most in the league. He's played 69 games. And you can see in those last three games, he's really struggled. 19.3 points per game, 8.7 rebounds per game, 3.7 assists per game. And, the totals may sound nice, but you're looking at the turnovers, 2.7 turnovers per game, shooting 28.9% from the field, 22.9% from three, and 65.8% from the free throw line. And how many shots you got to put up to average close to 20 points while shooting almost under 30% from the field and under 23% from the 3-point line. You got to really be chucking. And we've got a guy like Obi Toppin on the team that you probably should be playing a little bit more, especially with Julius Randle struggling and clearly needing to take a little bit of a breather. But for some reason, Tom Thibodeau refuses to play Obi any type of meaningful minutes. It's ridiculous.
Exactly. And folks, we're proud of this because we love giving takes that you won't hear anywhere else. And Keith and I were saying, and if you look at Randle, he looked exhausted from the opening tip. It wasn't like, a whole game in the fourth quarter, it took its toll and he looks tired in that last quarter. He looked out of it from the beginning of the game. And I think people were making references to that, actually, some of the announcers and stuff like that. So we said to ourselves, that look looks familiar. He had that same look when he played Atlanta, that there was nothing left in the tank. And he started doing those stupid, spins to get the turnovers and his shot selection and all of these things. And then we said, you know what? Wait, that was the bubble year. If we realize it, that was 71 games. And Keith is right on his game as always. That year, he also led the league with 67 minutes. So, and then we went, whoa, wait, we're right there. We're at 69 games. Wow. Is it deja vu? Is it the same thing happening that he's hitting the wall? And as Keith says, will he have anything left in the tank? As these last games, because a game or two, saying take a day off, that's not going to do it at this stage. He's a few years older from those 2021 playoffs. The body changes. So what do we got to look forward to? So we're hoping there's divine intervention and something could happen. But this is all the triggers when Julius comes out. Overplayed, as the minutes drain them of those skills now at the end of the season. We have two super chats.
Two? I see one from
Parrish.
It says, our poor kids got to go through JR Tips chaos once again. Yeah, man, you can see they looked a little bit disturbed. Quentin Grimes was in the background looking like, what's going on here? Emmanuel Quickley was trying to calm down Julius Randle. I was just like, yo, quick, man, get out of there. You don't want Julius Randle hitting you with a left. Just try and get as far away as possible. Everything's clicking for you right now. Go find you a safe space. Let Evan Fournier dive on that bullet. Get in front of that bullet. You stay away, bro, man. We need you. But, yeah.
At least do a leg sweep.
Something. I was just like, yo, stay far away from Julius Randle in that moment because I felt like he was going to knock anybody's head off. He was pushing Tibbs away. Tibbs is the coach. I think one thing you really have to look at and say, which is very important for this team, is Johnny Bryant's effect on him because he seemed like the only guy that could really calm down Julius Randle in that moment. Everybody else, one thing I think is safe to say is when Julius Randle is upset, don't touch him. Clearly, that's number one. I've seen it more than enough times that whenever he's upset about a tech, first thing he says is don't touch him. That seems like something that really amps him up when he's upset. So Johnny Bryant, understanding that, he had his hands in his pocket. He just maintained eye contact and he was able to talk him down off whatever ledge he was on at that moment. So I think that's very important in terms of trying to get into Julius Randle and his psyche to try to calm him down in those moments. So kudos to Johnny Bryant for being the guy that can kind of calm Julius Randle down in those moments.
There's a earlier one from Parrish, also a super chat.
Let's see. Yep, Parrish Duggar, thank you for that, Fox. He says, salute Randle, ball stopping in a slump is a killer. Facts. move the ball. Attract the double team and still make solid decisions. Just because guys are getting physical with you doesn't mean you have to completely change up your game. Draw the double, but just make smart passes out of the double team. And if they're being physical, then you just got to deal with the way the game is being called. But I don't think the game was being called one way for the Knicks and another way for the Clippers. I just thought the refs were out there letting them play, and if they're letting you
Me
play,
too.
you just adjust to that style of play.
Me too. I thought they were, I've seen a lot worse called games than that. And
Yeah, I mean,
what
to start the
triggered?
game, you knew they were going to let them play because there was one play where Kawhi was kind of backing down Julius Randle, and he really got into his chest and moved him. And I was like, okay, if they're going to let that rock, it's going to be that type of game. You just got to meet their physicality. That's
I'm
all.
surprised. I'm surprised Johnny didn't say to him when he went down to Dallas and everything that, listen, we can't ever have this stuff what happened last season happen. We got to get a safe word between us. If you love your wife, you love your kids, let's come up with a word. Let's say the word blue. If I say the word blue to you, everything should cease. That means I'm cutting. I ain't messing around here. That means you got to cut this shit. Cut it immediately. All right. Do we have a deal? You got to do something. Come up with something. But like you said, for that outburst is like it felt like transference. What the hell is bothering him that this is being triggered to such a level like that in a game? Like we said, we're up, but now you created momentum, and they went on a 9-0 run, and you lost the game for us.
Pretty much.
We have another super chat from the one and only buzzer beater.
Yep. It says, I thought it was just me. I turned down ESPN and TNT too.
We're brothers, man. Absolutely.
And then you even look at the way the game went. I mean, we shot 27 free throws. They didn't even shoot 20. So it's not like the game was being called against us. You didn't like that certain fouls were called. They weren't called for the Clippers either. I don't see the reason to explode like that. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but when you shoot 22% from three, yeah, you're going to lose games, folks. And if you shoot 5 for 18 on your second chance points, you're going to lose games. You went through the effort to get that rebound, and then you're putting up another brick or two.
Mm-hmm. So I think he was more frustrated about his own performance than it was the way the refs were calling the game. Completely uncalled for. It's crazy. But hopefully we don't see a repeat performance tonight. Hopefully he can figure it out. I mean, it's a big game going up against the Lakers. So the spotlight will be on him. It'll be against his former team.
I think his teammates deserved an apology. Meaning I definitely think he should, in private, doesn't have to be broadcast to the fans or anything, but in private, I let you down, guys. I'm sorry. I apologize.
The videographer needs an apology. That man threatened him. He said, "Look, meet me in the back if you gonna keep talking like that." I was like, "Yo, what's going on?" You got Julius Randle inviting staff to the tunnel to fight. I was like, "No, this guy's crazy." And he said he didn't want him to touch him. It didn't look like he touched him. And maybe if he did, it was just to get his attention to calm down. Man, that guy lost it. He really doesn't like that guy. I don't think he'll be here next year. Whoever what's his name, Scott King, he won't be here next year.
Well, I would like say to myself, yo, you can get quick retirement and let him touch you, and you get a $5 million like that. And, that was the best thing you ever did, man.
Oh, man, that's harassment at the workplace. That's 2 times he's been physical with him.
Yeah, and he has something against Fournier, man.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was going to knock Fournier's head off because I'm like, yo, Fournier, you were the last person to get in front of Julius Randle when he's hot. He clearly doesn't like you.
Well, clearly. Do you know that Evan Fournier's parents were Olympic level judo, and he studied mixed martial arts his whole life? He doesn't look like it, but on the Knicks, Evan Fournier is the wrong dude, folks, to mess with. So, he may look like, he's a soft French guy, but that guy will break your freaking head with a mixed martial arts move in a second. So,
with that being said, I still got my money on Julius Randle.
I don't know, man. Julius better make a move because, mixed martial arts, we watch it together. If a dude knows that and gets close to you, you're in trouble, man.
I hear you on that one, but with Julius Randle built like an ox, I'm not sure if Evan Fournier will be able to get some of those locks in on him. All right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Punch Knight says, I got my money on Fournier. Manchild also agrees, says Fournier is a judo guy. Richard Graham says, remind yourself flying on the plane, sleeping in hotel beds. The whole jet lag thing is maintenance on minutes. Before the trips, tips is not that. Find someone who is. Yeah, man. This is when you start to see some of the cracks in Tom Thibodeau's coaching style. So yes, we were able to go on nice sustained runs in terms of getting victories during the regular season, but at what cost? You know, what's his face? Like Thanos says in the Avengers, at what cost? Yeah, we had Julius Randle out there playing high minutes and we were getting those victories, but will we have enough of of will Julius Randle have enough to actually perform come playoff time when it's really gonna matter? Remains to be seen.
That's why we brought this slider, folks. There's going to be deja vu all over again in 2021 playoffs that he's going to be exhausted, and that's going to trigger the stupid spins, the turnovers, the bad shot selection, and the bad attitude and just vibes that is just not conducive to a team winning coming into a playoff. And we've seen guys like Draymond and KD, and you can get emotional and shit like that, but at least that's an important game. What the hell are you doing here? So, hey, and this team, it's about trends. We had an earlier winning streak early in this year, and then we lost, 3-4 in a row after it. We had an 8 or 9 game winning streak, and now we're losing this. So that's the nature of this team. So nobody likes losing it, but hey, you had an excellent season. You have overachieved, especially for Julius, man. You're playing like an all NBA. Take a deep breath and, learn from last year. I need a mental health day. Let me take a game off, man. Let me just, honey, fly out here. Maybe we'll go down to Malibu and hang out for a day or so and just smell the air and let me come back fresh and shit. And do something.
The air in Cali, you're going to come back high.
Yo, now you got me smiling.
All right, man. So let's look at this team and how they've been performing. We're going back once again to 12-4-22. That's when we shrunk the rotation. So you can see in that time period, Knicks are 13th in points per game, 3rd in rebounds, still 30th in assists. And what was crazy is we were actually moving the ball in that game against the Clippers. That was something that I really like to see, especially with Julius Randle struggling. The team was moving the ball, fighting, open teammates and getting some good looks. And that kind of went to shit in the fourth quarter.
Still only 21 assists, though, which is last in the league.
Yeah, but in the first half, we were, how many did we have? I felt like we had like 13 on 15 shots or something like that.
That's true.
Yeah, so first half, we were doing it, but the second half.
Tale of two halves.
Yeah, and that's pretty much the same team we had last year. Without Jalen Brunson, this team is very similar to the team that we had last year in terms of looking like two completely different teams in the first and the second half, and with Julius Randle imploded.
Exactly.
Also, we're 14th in 3-point percentage, and we're 25th in free throw percentage, which is extremely frustrating that we can't knock our free throws, even though we knocked them down in the game against the Clippers.
Yeah, we shot that well with the Clippers, but God, we keep saying, come on, folks. We're getting into the serious part of the season. You have to shoot 80%, at least 78% the league average from the foul line or better.
Yep. And then looking at the analytics, so far, same time frame. Offensive rating, we're second in the league. Defensive rating, 12th in the league. Net rating, third. Offensive effective field goal percentage, we're 16th. Defensive effective field goal percentage, we're third. And then pace, we're 30th. So again, the defense is one thing that I can say was still solid in terms of the team defense against the Clippers. That remained intact. It was just us not knocking down open shots that really doomed us.
Exactly. The being able to hit threes, and we had nice, like we said, we had how many? I think we had 20 offensive rebounds. You can't ask for any more for that, but we went 5 for 18.
Yeah, we had almost 3 times as many offensive rebounds as the Clippers did. Say that again, Foxy. You came in low.
Exactly.
Okay. And now let's look at the starters' stats. So you can see the green, Jalen Brunson, he's out. Emmanuel Quickley's been elevated, but you can see what he's been doing since the rotation was cut down. RJ Barrett at 20.3. Julius Randle, 27.1. Mitchell Robinson, he's been averaging a double-double. He also had 14 rebounds in the game against the Clippers. We'd just like to see a little bit more in terms of him finishing. He had a real weird game. He was 2 of 8 from the field in that game, which is very uncharacteristic. For the most part, he's shooting over 65, close to 70% from the field. So for him going 2 of 8 is something that you don't expect to see again. What else we got going on? Anything you want to mention, Foxy?
I think you captured it perfectly.
And now looking at the bench, you've got IQ, Hart. Well, Quick's been elevated to the starting lineup. You've got Hart. Like I mentioned, he's been shooting over 60% from both the field and the three-point line since he's gotten here. So that's definitely a bonus for him. Obi, shot still hasn't been falling. 38.1% from the field, 27.6% from the three-point line. But he played well in the first half in the game against the Clippers. There was some defensive rotations he missed in the second half and things like that. But for the most part, he was the catalyst of that run, I think, earlier on in that game. So for Tibbs to only play him, 13 minutes? I think that was a travesty. He definitely should have had at least 16, 17 minutes in that game, especially with the way Randle was struggling. What do you think, Fox?
And actually, I thought he had some, against the Kings, I thought Obi had some really good defensive possessions. So where his length, versus some of the other guys made a big difference. So, but it was a perfect opportunity to give him some more burn to maybe get out of that funk from shooting. It's a game of rhythm. So let him get into some rhythm, a few weeks out of the playoff. I think April 9th is the last season game of the season. And that's, less than 4 weeks away.
I think we have 12, 13 games left?
14, I think, something like that. Or 13, 14, something like that.
Yeah. Jesco says RJ's dropping the quietest 20 points per game I've ever seen in my life. Because it's extremely inefficient for the most part. And, he'll have games where he goes off, well, he hasn't even done that recently. When was the last time he went off for 30? I feel like it's been before he broke the finger, no? Has he gone off for 30 since then? I don't think so.
He had 29 against the Celtics.
But he hasn't had a 30-point game since he came back.
No, I know. So he was border right there. So, yeah.
Yeah, we need some more 30-point games from him. Yeah, he didn't have one all of March. None all of February. So, yeah. I think his last one, I'm looking at the game logs. Yeah, we need a 30-point game for my guy.
An efficient 30-point game.
Well, yeah, that.
Because he'll give you 30, but
right?
It took 29 shots to get it.
Right? Yeah, man. His last 30-point game was against Detroit. Oh, no, that's beginning of the year. I'm looking at it the wrong way.
Hey, folks, we have 89 in the chat. We have only 60 likes, as we always talk about with YouTube, that algorithm. If you can, doesn't cost you a thing, please hit that like. Let's have a little like spike. Just everyone do us a favor, hit that like button so we can hit that metric of 100 on the likes. If you subscribe, thank you so much. And, please tell a friend to tell a friend. If you haven't subscribed, as we always talk about, it's the one-stop shop for Knicks news, rumors, and analysis. Please turn on that all reminder bell so you don't miss out on any of the wonderful content from Sports Vibe TV. If you can't catch it live, shout out to the replay gang. We love chopping it up in the comments with you. And as always, shout out to the best mods on the planet. We appreciate all you do. And also one other thing, I'd like to do a shout out for my nephew, Brian. He just got married to his girlfriend, Allison. So just wanted to say congratulations on your wedding. And I love you guys very, very much.
Salute to Brian. Oh, that's the wrong one. There you go. There you go. Salute to Brian. So I found it. His last 30-point game was February 2nd.
Yo.
So it's been a while. Nice to see him hit that 30-point threshold. Like you said, Foxy, an efficient 30-point.
When he hit that, you have the stats when he hit that 30-point game?
All right. So he played 40 minutes. He shot 57% from the field, and he shot 67% from three. He was 13 of 23 from the field and 4 of 6. I'm sorry, no. He was 0 of 5 from three. He was 4 of 6 from the three-point line, so most of his shots were two-pointers. 13 of 23, 57% from the field, 0 of 5, 0% from 3, and 4 of 6, 67% from the charity stripe.
How many assists?
4. 4 assists, 8 rebounds. 5
How many turnovers?
5.
Rest my case, counselor. That's a really ugly 30-point game.
And he was minus 19 in it.
That's better than minus 21.
He was minus
2. He's 2 points better than the last game.
He was minus 1.
Oh, all right.
And we won. It was against Miami. 2-2-23.
Thank you, everyone in the chat, for doing a shout out for my nephew, Brian. Appreciate it. He loves the Knicks. Takes after his uncle.
Yes, sir. Anybody else want to give a shout out to in the chat, Foxy?
Just Lex the Destroyer, one of the great mods the Lord's ever made. Soul Train, Navy Blue 76, Lucy 00682, J3 Lacrosse. That's funny. I just brought up my nephew Brian. He went to college on a lacrosse scholarship, so he's fantastic at lacrosse. He's now in the business world. So Sura Machina, Med, all of you, thank you so much.
All right,
Manchild. Tanks.
Yep, and we've been keeping track on the Knicks record when we hold opponents under 110 points, and right now Knicks are 27-2 when holding opponents under 110 points, and we're 12-28 when opponents score over 111 points. So we did hold the Clippers under 106 points in our last game, but the offense just wasn't there for us. And big piece.
That's why we're 27-2. You used to be 27-1.
Yeah. So we played well defensively, but the offense just wasn't there. So you would think in a game like that, if we had Brunson, we probably win.
No doubt.
Have a completely different tone tonight. We probably still bashing RJ Barrett and saying we might need to trade him, but for the most part, it'd be a much more jovial environment. But without Brunson, with no timetable for him to really return, it's gonna be rough. It's going to be rough, especially with the way the Nets have been playing recently. The Cavs have been winning.
So let me ask you a question in the SV Nation.
Shoot.
If Brunson's going to be out a little while, is it time to brush off DeRozan and say, we need you to come in on that second team and at this, one last hurrah, help us lead us to the playoffs while Brunson's getting better?
It all depends on how we look tonight against the Lakers. If we look like we still are struggling offensively, we're still not hitting shots, then maybe you bring in a guy like Derrick Rose, because the last time we saw him, he was knocking down that three-pointer. He was knocking it down right around 40%, if I'm not mistaken. So he can knock down the three, he can penetrate and get you a bucket. And if you cannot have him on the court out there with RJ, and if Julius Randle steps up defensively, you might be able to hide him a little bit in terms of team defense and whatnot. So Derrick Rose could be an option to get some minutes. You probably have to sit Deuce and remove Deuce from the rotation. But it is something that Tibbs could explore and see if that'll provide any spark to us offensively.
Yeah, I was just thrown out there, just thinking about it and what can we possibly do? And we like Deuce, but there's certain elements even at this, advanced stage that, DeRozan can do that Deuce can't yet.
I mean, yeah, Deuce
or ever will.
Deuce played 6 minutes. The only thing he provided was 2 free throws. He played solid defense. He had a steal. He had a block. But, I think defensively, this team has been, playing well. We just have to find ways to score now. And if RJ's not giving it to us and Julius Randle's continuing to bug out, Derrick Rose could be an option.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a super chat for Jay Bookie. Thank you for supporting the live stream. He says, question to the young Warner. If it would be helpful of a point guard so IQ could go back to playing his natural, do you think D Rose could help right now? Oh, see, perfect. That's exactly
perfect timing.
We were discussing. Do you think Rose?
Thank you for the super chat.
I know you had brought up the question, but anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, thank you for the super chat. We greatly appreciate it. Yeah, that it's something that I've been thinking about, Boogie, and that, you saw Kevin Love to Miami. Sometimes these vets, this is the time of the year that maybe a vet has the smarts and everything that could just do a few things to get you over the hump until Brunson can come back and to take over the helm again.
Facts. Also, we see King John 1985 says D'Lo would have been a nice pickup now, especially with Brunson down. The thing is with D'Lo, he really wouldn't have a role when Brunson is healthy and available. He'd kind of be redundant at that point because where you gonna play D'Lo if Brunson's healthy? Gonna have him come off the bench? That'd be my only thing. Yeah, with Brunson out, but you'd only bring in a guy like D'Lo if Brunson's gonna be out for the season, and then you can you've got D'Lo that you can play or you can start for the remaining portion of the season. What? Justin Moses Brown waived by the Knicks. We just signed him. Really, Jesco? How the hell?
I guess he didn't part the Red Sea.
I thought that was a solid pickup too. He showed some promise.
I thought it was a solid pickup too.
I actually had mentioned him in the short.
And especially with every game, you're saying, "Oh, Mitch, he's laying on the ground. Is he going to get up?" and stuff like that. So we've done strange shit like this before, man.
Look at this. We started the show saying Trevor Kills was out of here, and now look, halfway through the show, well, towards the end of the show, we've got Steve Popper reporting Knicks signing Trevor Kills to a two-way again, waived Moses Brown. The Knicks are waiving Moses Brown just 4 days after signing him to a two-way deal. So they're just wasting our time, I see.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
I'd prefer Moses Brown over Trevor Kills, to be honest with you. I think Moses Brown got some promise, especially as a backup big. You have a guy like Moses Brown. Maybe you could potentially include a guy like Jericho Sims in the deal, and then you can elevate Moses Brown as that third center come next season. But, we'll see how it goes. Oh, man, Gesundheit.
Bless you.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, that's crazy. Thank you for that, Jessica. I really do appreciate it. So that's breaking news for you guys. That's why you guys are tuned in. All right. Say it again, Foxy.
I said exactly for the second. Every time I say exactly, you can't hear me.
My fault. I think the noise canceller is clipping you anytime you say exactly. All right, let's see what's going on.
We have a super chat.
This one from Soul Train. Thank you for the super chat. It says, Mr. Fox, do you think the Washington pick will convey to us the Mavs picks? Looks like it will be a low lotto pick.
Yo, it's I don't know about the Washington pick because that's a top 14 protected, but I'm really concentrating on the Dallas pick because I think it's 15th as of now. And there could be not a bad player there at 15 for us. There's a few people there. So let's cross our fingers that we can get, the Wizards, that we get them at 15 and we have, then all of a sudden it gives us a whole lot of leverage if we have both, the Dallas pick and also the Wizards pick.
Yeah, because I think right now the Wizards are projected to not make the playoffs, right? So we wouldn't end up getting their pick. They'd have to go on a pretty decent winning streak and then win the play-in order for us to get their pick. But if you look at Dallas, like Foxy said, they're projected to pick at 15. So that'd be a nice, prize for us in terms of adding some draft capital.
Yeah, we've touched on some players. One of them that I love, Taylor Hendricks out of UCF, Central Florida. I see some Chris Webber in his game, a certain... I like him. He can shoot threes. He's been consistent all year, and I just like it. He's supposed to be a fantastic young man.
So how would you feel
block shots?
How would you feel if we don't get the Dallas pick, though?
You mean us giving it up?
No, like us not getting it because Dallas.
I think that's a top 10 protect.
Yeah, but
I think. I'm just thinking that even with, unless Kyrie and Luka both go down, then it's a shot we won't get their selection.
They lost their last two already, and they haven't been clicking. So I wouldn't be shocked if they but I wouldn't be shocked if they start to slip because Luka and Kyrie on a great pairing because defensively that team is terrible.
Maybe they'll tank. Hey, I think there's a really good shot that Kyrie won't be there next year. So I don't know why Cuban did that.
Yeah, it was a crazy deal in itself. But if you look at the Mavs and what their schedule is moving forward, You never know. They can go on a losing run.
Yeah. Well, if we don't get their pick, then you know
Ain't
it's
gonna
a
have
real
faith.
asset now. At 15, there's definitely players that I know talent evaluators are going to be high on. That not only this year, when you're a talent evaluator, you're really thinking 3 years out who they're going to be. So when we talked last year about Jaden Ivey, we're going to say he's going to have all these issues, but 3 years from now, if the game slows down for him, he could be a serious player. So there's certain guys in this draft like that a couple of years from now, working on their development, they could be very good players. I don't know about stars, but really good rotational players.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Dallas's remaining schedule. They've got games against the 76ers still, two against the Grizzlies. You're not sure what's going to happen with Morant, if he'll be back in time. But if he is, that'll be a tough game for them. They got games against the
Adams is out.
Kings.
He just got stem cells in his knee.
Yeah, Adams is out. They got games against the Heat, games against the Warriors, and games against the Hawks. And then they still got to play the Lakers. The Bulls will be a tough matchup, and then the Pacers. So
Yeah, well, I think you nailed something then, because I didn't look at their schedule, but there's a really good shot they'll be losing all, because those teams are going to be wanting to win those games.
for seeding, yeah.
Yeah, for seeding purposes. So, shit, that would go from 50. If we lost if they went down to top 10, that'd break my heart
Yeah, because we already traded our first
for Josh.
Hart. So let me see where the Mavs are right now.
15th, isn't it?
Well, in their conference though, so they're eighth.
Oh, gotcha.
So they're eighth. So they would have to fall into the play-in or out of the play-in or lose in the play-in and then have a lucky lottery. So definitely something to keep our eye on, just to see.
And knowing the Knicks luck, they'll do everything and they'll get the 10th pick and we'll get screwed.
You already know that. You already know how that goes.
We're cursed.
Yeah, haters. You know how that goes. All right. Let's see. So, also, before we wrap up, there's some news we wanted to get into as well. This was reported by the Daily News. This is Cam Reddish on his time with the Knicks. It was tough, but at the same time, it ain't even about basketball. Reddish told the Daily News it had nothing to do with basketball. It was all politics, all the favoritism, shit like that. That's why I wasn't too worried about it. So, Foxy, do you agree? You think it was favoritism that kept Cam Reddish out of the lineup or the rotation?
I think it was favoritism that Tibbs wanted to play somebody that, he was his favorites are people that play defense, rebound, and assist. Hey, folks, just real quick, Cam Reddish, he's averaging 13.8 points for the Trailblazers, 3.3 assists, 2.7 assists, 1.8 turnovers, and for all the time he's been with Portland, he's a minus 60. So the song remains the same, as Led Zeppelin would say, that if you go past the numbers, he's never, he's like the negative 83 that he doesn't ever play winning basketball. That's why he's on his third team at 23. That I'm glad he's had, and in 30 minutes that he's done that. So, and you mentioned it to me. He went from starting now to the bench. And so, hey, I could feel him feeling that way. It was a trade that should have never happened. He wasn't a Tibbs player from day one. But, I'm sure Clutch is feeling good that he's getting shots at Tibbs and CAA and Leon and everything like that. But you know what? If I was you, Cam, I'd shut the hell up and just focus on realizing your potential, because no different than we said about RJ. Next year, there's only 14 games or so left. Next year's your fifth season. Nobody wants to talk about realizing potential in somebody's fifth season.
Yeah, he's definitely going to have to turn things around a little bit over there with the Trailblazers. But I think he's had some solid moments. You've seen games. What did he have? 8 assists a couple games ago. So he's starting to move the ball a little bit, starting to be a little bit more of a force offensively. And, he's playing opposite of a guy like Damian Lillard, so he's not really been given an opportunity to take over or things like that. I think that's why you've seen him get moved from that starting lineup to the second unit, where he can at least feast a little bit more, as opposed to starting with a guy like Lillard or being out there with Grant, etc. So, he's still learning his way. I think there's still room for development, room for improvement. But if you look at his time here with the Knicks, I think there was some favoritism, or not necessarily. And if you don't want to call it favoritism, I don't think Tibbs was fond of Cam Reddish's game. I said that the moment that we traded for him, and you heard about some of the things Tibbs was saying about him and some of the things he saw out there on the court that he didn't like. So was he ever given a fair shot here? I don't think so. You hear about some of the things he mentioned where if he missed a shot, he felt like he had to make every single one or else he was going to get benched. I mean, we could probably say the same thing about a guy like Obi Toppin. If Obi Toppin doesn't take a shot that Tom Thibodeau likes, you'll see the quick hook, and you won't see that same quick hook against other players, that we've argued or discussed about here on the channel, numerous occasions. So I think there is some sort of, I don't know if favoritism is the right word, but everybody isn't treated the same. Maybe you could say that they're treated fairly. If you want to say, Julius Randle is a guy that has a lot more power in that locker room, and he's able to get a longer leash since he's a All NBA, former All NBA, and an All Star. But you look at some of the younger guys; they aren't really given the same leash or the same opportunity to fail and turn around and succeed out there on the court. So I think what Cam Reddish is saying, there's some truth to it. But also, I think Cam should look at himself and see where he failed as well, because there were some moments defensively where he wasn't giving the utmost effort, especially that game. What was the last game he played for us against the Mavs? I think there were a couple possessions where he kind of just gave up on a couple plays, and that was the last time we saw him. So I think it's a little bit of both. Some of it is on Tibbs for not really giving Cam a fair shot, and also some is on Cam for not seizing the opportunity when he was given one. So it's on both sides.
Well, Tibbs made a comment about, it goes beyond stats for winning players. And, that was a shot at a few things. But Josh Hart got here, played his very first game, lots of minutes, didn't know him and everything, but he knows the type of player he is. You look at Quentin Grimes, Tibbs don't play rookies or young guys. Played Grimes because he plays defense. Played IQ because he's playing defense now and stuff like that. That as long as you're putting in the time in the gym and you're putting in time, playing winning basketball, especially on defensive, that your position, what you're supposed to do, you're communicating, and that you're a dog, you're going to win over Tibbs. He did everything not to win him over. He did the same thing Kevin Knox did.
Well, you mentioned Josh Hart. Tibbs, from the time he came into the league, said he loves Josh Hart. And even now that we have Josh Hart, he's taking minutes from a young guy like Quentin Grimes, and he's even taking minutes from a young guy like R.J. Barrett. Whether it's warranted or not, we won't get into that. But
it is warranted because his on court, off court, from the day he's walked into the league, guys like Tibbs looks for players like we talked about that makes the players around them better. Low turnovers, high IQ, is going to be getting that tough rebound, is going to be making the right play for the team. And Cam, there was never an element where you thought that he was going to be doing the right thing for the team.
Well, no.
Or at least with me.
What I'm saying is, regardless of whether or not it was warranted, as soon as Josh Hart got here, he was getting more minutes than he was taking minutes from a guy like Quentin Grimes and R.J. Barrett. I'm just saying it shows that Tibbs, from the minute he traded for him, knew that was one of his guys and he was going to play him like that. And we've seen that ever since Josh Hart has been here. So, I would agree.
And the last thing I'll say is Jalen Brunson's reaction when he found out Josh Hart was coming here.
That was his college roommate.
I know that, but it's a thing. But I don't care if you're a college roommate, but if you're playing with somebody that's really happening, you're like, wow, I'm great. I'm glad my buddy and my guy is coming here, but we got so-and-so. He had a look on his face like, finally, I got somebody I could go to war with. Now I got somebody with me. I got my guy with me. I think he felt lonely until Josh got here. We saw that. He sat next to his dad on the bench when he wasn't playing. He wasn't on the other side of the bench where RJ, Cam, and Obi were giggling on the right of the bench. He was like next to his dad. Now that Josh is here, now he's got his guy with him.
You got his college roommate, Foxy. I'm pretty sure that bond you build, living in his dorm with your college roommate, going to battle for an NCAA championship.
That's the one. One thing is being a roommate, and another thing is going to battle and winning a national championship and saying this guy's a dog. I love the way he plays. I know how he plays.
Yeah, but I don't see how that factors into Tibbs picking favorites though.
Well, just meaning that this guy, every game you see him make a play that you're like, wow, that was a hustle play, high IQ play. We watched Cam, and like we said, he was the prototype, 6'8", 7 foot plus wingspan. But, we just looked at the numbers. Folks, if we brought up Cam's numbers, they're similar to RJ's. He's never been a good shooter from day one at Atlanta. He had one season where he shot not bad at from three, but from rim, he's terrible at the rim, finishing terrible from short mid range. He's never been a good shooter. He's been a guy that you're saying he's that 6'8" freaking prototype 3-and-D but he's never been the three, and he's only been the D every once in a while. So you also have to say to yourself, for a guy that young, he's on his third team already. So was it the Knicks' fault? Is it the Atlanta Hawks' fault? And or after next year, is it going to be the Trailblazers' fault?
But I don't think anybody's look at the way Cam is playing in Portland and saying he's playing bad. I think he's rehabbing his image over there in Portland. He's putting up some
not at negative points. 60.
Yeah, I hear you, but the Trailblazers as a squad aren't that good. If you look at their entire team's plus minus, I'm pretty sure the majority of them are in the minus.
But why was Josh Hart's plus minus positive when he was with Portland?
Well, yeah, that's if you want to compare Josh Hart to Cam Reddish, but I'm not comparing Josh Hart.
That's who he got traded for, though.
I'm comparing how Tibbs treated him while he was here. Josh Hart doesn't factor into that at any point.
That's true. I don't know how he treated him. That's all speculation. But if he says that, that it was all politics and favoritism, it probably was. But that's on the front office for having a community being dysfunctional and being on a different wavelength than Tibbs. They should have never brought in a player that Tibbs wasn't excited about like he was for Josh Hart.
Yeah, they never gave him a fair shot. That's why I said
they didn't give him a fair shot.
Tibbs, from the time he came here, never wanted Cam. And Cam didn't do anything to give Tibbs a reason to turn a new leaf. So I think the blame is on both parties. I don't think one is innocent.
I agree.
And in this situation, it's unfortunate because I think Cam could still be a solid player in this league, and he still fills a role. Because even with Josh Hart, I mean, you look at Josh Hart, he was getting cooked by De'Aaron Fox. Not to say Cam Reddish was going to come here and make a major difference, but I think if Cam Reddish is engaged and was buying in, I think he could have been a solid enough defender to at least give De'Aaron Fox a little bit more trouble, seeing that he's quicker than Hart and things like that, and has the length to make things a little bit more difficult.
That's on Tibbs, though. I don't mean anything, but you're talking about an explosive player. Josh Hart, he guards twos and threes. You're asking him. That was much better for him to throw quick at De'Aaron Fox than
maybe.
Then Josh. That wasn't fair to Josh, man. You're going against literally one of the fastest guys in the league. He's explosive. That dunk was crazy.
I mean, but that dunk was also on Obi as well, because Obi didn't rotate over the time. Obi was like us sitting at home watching in amazement, like, yo, what's going on here? And like this, he was at the rim and dunking. I was like, holy smokes.
Yeah. Yeah, I stopped, rewind, and saw that too on the Obi thing. So I was like, oh, that was ugly, man.
Yeah, you got to rotate over, bro. Especially if we keep arguing and saying you need more minutes. I mean, hey,
yeah, Julius Randle, that same game I wrote down that Trey Lyles scored a key layup. And if you watch the replay, folks, he was primed to take a charge, Randle, and he chose not to, do what Brunson does. He did not. He had the perfect position to take one step, hold him, be steady. He would have the charge, and he decided not to do that, man, and did as our guy Clyde would say, the Matador D, and won.
Yeah, man. All right, Foxy. Before we wrap up the stream, this is the part where we jump into a young player that you've targeted for us in the potential draft. If we get the pick, at least we already traded our pick, and who knows what will happen with the Mavs pick. But you want to jump into the guy you want to have us target this upcoming draft?
Yeah, folks. So we've been, last week was Derek Lively. I don't know if you watched the Duke game yesterday that they won, and we've touched on Maxwell Lewis. We've touched on Taylor Hendricks. We talked on Bryce Sensabaugh, who got a knee injury, unfortunately, and he'll be out, which breaks my heart when I see this. So this week, folks, we're talking about Chris Murray, the twin brother of Keegan Murray, who we just saw on Sacramento the other day. Very similar in that the same smoothness. He's 22 years old, chose to go back. So some people might say, wow, that's pretty old. But, he's long, man, 6'8", almost that 7-foot wingspan. As you can see, 1.2 blocks, has a real nice stroke, nice motor on him, very efficient, doesn't force issues, high IQ. He's another lefty, so it'd be weird, but definitely we'll see in what happens, whether here, combine and stuff moving up the board. But he's from a good pedigree, man. He is very similar. I have here as a player comparison, Otto Porter. But Otto Porter, when he came out of Georgetown, was very highly regarded. He did get one giant contract before, injuries and everything really took away. But like I said, we're not looking for a star. We're looking for a rotational player. And, this team is definitely a hole in having a 6'8" type of wing that could come on, like we were just talking about, what Cam could have done, having that guy with that reach and everything like that, has really, really good feet, moves very, very well without the ball, puts himself in a great position. He's a big wing. So he's going to continue, has all the things that I could see him continuing to improve, so I expect him to be a very good 3-point shooter, very versatile defender, and very smart. And, but just wanted to bring that up. I don't know if we would go for a 22-year-old, but he'd be a solid pick for us in the 15 to 17 range.
So do you think he'd be another long-term project, or do you think he'd actually be someone that Tibbs would have enough faith in to put out there and see if he can be a contributor early on?
I think that he in the first year or so he'd probably be a matchup guy that we need some length. And let's bring him out there. Like I said, he's very high IQ, so he's a guy that's going to be studying. He's going to know what Tibbs is expecting of him. He's going to make passes. Like I said, unlike he's a shot blocker. So you'd like to have a weak side guy that can come and block shots, has that real, is very lanky, very smooth. We saw with his brother Keegan. He's he's very smooth, has the same personality, almost Jericho Sims, very emotionless. He's just a real quiet dog. So, but I could see him because of his length and his versatility, that it's somebody, hey, everyone we talk about at this range, folks, I don't know if Tibbs will play. They're going to have to come, as we talked about in the Cam discussion, they're going to have to come with defense first. And this guy can play defense besides having a really smooth stroke. So just wanted to bring it up that this is a potential guy that may be climbing boards, especially in private workouts and stuff like that.
Jesco wants to know, is he an Obi replacement or just a tall wing?
What is he? What was the question? Is Obi replacement all tall wing? I think D, all the above. That I think that he could be absolutely be an Obi replacement. That the same size. Like I said, he's much more of a shot blocker. A better rebounder than Obi. So I could absolutely see him, and also with a kid like that he'd be okay with 10 minutes a game. And also because of his high IQ, being more mature at 22, that he'd come in and he'd be able to give you like a good 10-minute, giving a Randle a breather.
King John 1985 wants to know, can he create his own shot?
That's a great question. It's funny, if you look at most 3-and-D guys, they can't create their own shot. So most of them, are catch and shoot threes, and they play fantastic defense. So, he creates a shot. I'll just say he's mediocre there.
Okay. And then Jesco wants to know if he can defend.
He can defend. He absolutely can defend. He can defend the 3, the 4, and then he can also play maybe a small ball 5.
Would he, like, if he got switched up to smaller guards, would he be able to stick out there on the perimeter too?
I think he has the footwork. It's so hard going from, even though he plays in a fantastic conference at Iowa, that, sometimes you just have to see them going against the speed of the NBA, because you always talk to the kids, their first year in the league, and they're like, so tell us what your experience is like. I can't believe how fast these guys play, how fast they are, how quick they are. And then the second thing out of their mouth is, can't believe how strong they are. So, can he adapt to speed? Well, I think his brother Keegan's doing, he's not Keegan, but there's certain elements of his physicality and his athleticism that are very similar to his brother. So I think his brother has shown well, and I think he will too. We do have a couple teasers for you, folks.
Yep, we do have some teasers that we want to get into.
We're not going to go into any detail, but we've been working behind the scenes here because March Madness is starting up, and we're not going to discuss this in detail at all, but we wanted to just wet your whistle and let you know what's coming up soon. In the next, few months, that we're going to have some fantastic draft shows. Yep. So this is just an early look, folks. This is going to be changing radically over the next, through March Madness and the combine. But just wanted to share with you the first, Foxy early NBA big draft board. We have Wembanyama going first, Scoot Henderson, Brandon Miller, who's really the only guy that could shoot. Victor Wembanyama, everybody's talking fantastic, and Scoot Henderson. They both shoot in the 20s from three. Nick Smith, he can shoot, so hopefully he can stay healthy. Amon Thompson and his brother Osor, they just won the Overtime Elite Finals championship, and that was a barometer for me because it's basically high school guys. So, but probably one of the quickest first steps I've ever seen. Jarace Walker, very Julius Randle to me in the sense of that he's a big guy, but with a fantastic handle, not any of the negative stuff that we were talking about. Cam Whitmore, again, a guy that has to find a shot. So one of the themes that you'll see is so many of these guys, they have to find their shot. They're not really good shooters. So one of the safest picks is Cason Wallace out of Kentucky. Justin L., haven't seen him in the chat, but if you're listening, we miss you, man. Go Kentucky, go. But he's a safe, great on defense. He's been hitting his three. I wish he was a better athlete. Anthony Black, same thing. 6'7", very Josh Giddey-like, but that shot. And the last guy at 12 is the best shooter in the draft, Grady Dick out of Kansas. So we'll go into more detail on these guys in the future. And if you want to bring up the next one, then we've gone into such detail, folks, that we have a breakdown. The first top six guys by position in the draft, and again, all of these will be moving. It's a moving target for us as the conference games finish up. And today is the big Sunday of brackets being formed, but we're going to be getting into it.
Also, just want to answer a quick question by Jesco. He says, where is he ranked in the mock drafts right now? So
who's he?
What's his name? Chris Murray. He's ranked.
I think actually Tankathon this morning had him going 15 to the Knicks.
Yeah, and also I think NBADraft.net has him as 12 going to Portland.
Yeah, so you can see that the talent evaluators are definitely saying that this guy has, and obviously, like we said, he's not his brother, but there's certain elements. It's his twin. And here is our first position. So you can see at the point guard, Scoots number 1, Cason Wallace, Jalen Hood Scafino. I know our guy Sherwin, Westchester's finest, talked about him. Kobe Buffkin out of Michigan is really moving up the boards. To Quavian Smith, we don't know what he is. He's very IQ-like. He's a microwave, but I just don't know if he's a point guard. But then he'd be a 6'3", undersized shooting guard without the defensive talent of IQ. Nick Smith has game, folks. I just don't know if that knee will hold up. But you see Dariq Whitehead, another guy out of Duke that had leg injuries all season. Hopefully he can get it. Bryce Sensabaugh just went down with a knee. Jet Howard, 6'8", but terrible feet. Terrible on defense. Jordan Horkins played terrible the other night. But I'm not going to go through every player, but you can see for small forward, Brandon Miller is really one of the only shooters 3-and-D in this draft, folks. The other guys, they really can't shoot. We brought up Rayon Rupert a couple of weeks ago in our early looks. He's going to be magnificent on defense, but can he hit that jumper? And you can see the guy number 2 that I'd love the Knicks to get if we get rid of Obi, Taylor Hendricks, at the power forward position behind Jarace Walker of Houston. Gigi Jackson, we touched on him. He's a project. He has to go to the right team to see if his game. We got Chris Murray there. And then you can see on centers, and we talked about Derek Lively last week with Mitch's injury history and the lack of rim protection that we'd really like from Isaiah Hartenstein. Maybe a guy that's 7'2" with a 7'5" to 7'7" wingspan. It should be the guy that's really coming on. So we wanted, again, this will be changing, but wanted to show you the level of maturity that we've brought the boards down to, that now it's just tweaking, but pretty much either guys are going up or down, but probably not going to fall off.
Also, we got a super chat from Soul Train 68. He says, how about Jet Howard?
Don't like him. I don't like him. The question was just brought up about making their own shot. Jet Howard has an issue making a shot. He has lousy feet. He's just an average athlete. He's terrible on defense. And the rumor behind the rumor is he's a diva. Even though his father, Juwan, had to bench him this year, he's a problem child. So he's definitely not a Jalen Brunson, Rick Brunson type of thing. So he's 6'8". He has great size. He's good catch and shoot, but I think he may drop down boards because of people are worried about him, especially on defense. He's absolutely terrible.
Thank you for the question, Soul Train. So yeah, we got a lot of draft videos in the works. I'll have Foxy come on as usual, give us his thoughts on some of the players and see how they fit with the New York Knicks moving forward. And we'll, in the off season, we'll get a better understanding as to where we'll draft, and we'll be able to, target a few more players once we get a better understanding of where they might go and things like that. So Foxy, just want to say thank you for all the hard work you've put in putting all of these.
Oh, it's a passion. It's love. So this is easy for me. I watched 5 games yesterday.
I hear you on that one. All right. So I think that's it for today's show. We went on a little bit longer than expected, but once again, when we have a lot of content to bring you guys, we don't want to try and speed through. We want to make sure we take our time to get through every point and make sure we are able to highlight some of your comments and your thoughts as well. As we say, you guys are the third host of the live stream, so we want to say thank you for that. Foxy, anybody you want to give a shout out to before we wrap up?
Yeah, Jesco said, who would you take with the 15th pick? I'm leaning toward Taylor Hendricks, especially if Obi is not going to be here. I really like Taylor Hendricks. Other than Brandon Miller, he's only one of the few guys that have hit a certain level of dunks, 3-pointers. He's hit his shot all season. Some guys, started off the season hot and then just dwindled as the season went on. He's been really, really consistent. So we love these questions. Like I said, I live for the draft. Where's my book here? So I've been writing all my notes in the games. So we have a lot of great draft content. So let the questions come on the different players, any sleepers that you may have seen, etc. And again, I brought up a player, folks, Trevon Brazile, a few weeks ago as a stash pick. I really like him. I don't know about 15, but if we traded down, like we said, our sweet spot's 25. He may be a guy in a couple of years. He's a shot blocker. You can't teach 6'11", has a beautiful 3-point stroke. He went down with a knee injury, and we talked about the similarity with OG Anunoby. I would not be surprised somebody like that gets picked up by Toronto.
Yeah, right now Taylor Hendricks is projected to go 16th to the Clippers via NBADraft.net. And NBADraft.net has us taking Jet Howard at 17.
I believe that. I could just mean that'd be Cam Reddish all over again. That'd be Tibbs would hate him. Tibbs would hate him.
Oh man, that was a good one, Foxy. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Thank you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate the support. We didn't get to the 100 likes, but it is what it is. We had a solid show. We had a lot of good suggestions and comments in chat, and that's what it's all about. So thank you guys once again for tuning in. Foxy, thank you for co-hosting. Really do appreciate all the support behind the scenes. And anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Julius, we love you, man. Come on, man. You've worked this hard. Last thing is, we're thinking positive. Let's put the game yesterday in our backview mirror. Just play hard, play team ball. That's all we're asking. Go Knicks, go. Let's win tonight.
Yes, sir. Let's win. All right. Thank you all for tuning in. Really do appreciate it.